let's go for it, eh? Is it 0? Yes, it's 0. Is it? Yes, it is.
You're listening
hey, cool.
to the Legion of Reason.
All right, yeah. So today is episode 201. There we go. Episode 201 of the Legion of Reason Diversion. I'm here with my co-host Christine, the internally misogynized Christine, and we have Feisty Twilight. You know, there was another name we had coming for you. Was it Monster Mom?
Oh, we don't need to remember that one.
I don't know. I'm going to look that one up again. I think it was Monster Mom. I'm not sure about that. So I'm going to actually look up the intro notes because I was in a hurry here. So anyway, so in this episode, the 201st episode, and this is April 23rd, 2017, we are joined by Cami Ryan, a social scientist with regulatory policy and scientific affairs for Monsanto. Let's see if it works.
We're all skills.
Let's see if this works.
All.
Oh, there we go. There it goes. Anytime Monsanto, there we go. Anytime Monsanto comes up, you will hear that shock stab. So anyway, yeah, I said Monsanto. Oh my God, no. Yes. So we are going to be talking.
Does audio cut out when we say Monsanto? Is that what's happening?
No, not at all. No. It's just going to do this.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah,
okay.
absolutely.
I couldn't quite hear
the shock stabber.
From down here in St. Louis. So
yeah. I'll speak up.
It'll be epic on the podcast recording. What if we say it 3 times in a row? What happens?
Oh, you die.
I haven't tried it.
Yeah, you die.
Sensors will beep us.
Anyway, so we're going to be talking with Cami about, we're going to talk GMOs, I suppose, and especially organic. Oh, my God, my favorite, organic foods, etc. Anyway, the whole schlemazel with the mythology behind this kind of thing. But we're also going to be going from part 1, which will be with Cami, to part 2. You know, I really do hope you stick around anyway. I mean, I know you're kind of pressed for time, Cami, but we have got a lot of good topics coming up. In a far-reaching decision in Saskatchewan, a judge says that non-Catholics cannot, not so much not attend Catholic schools, but they will not be funded for the seat, which is how Catholic schools get funded, right? So they get per student funding in the Catholic school system, and that's not going to happen in Saskatchewan anymore. That may actually translate to something in Alberta and Ontario. Well, who knows? We'll see. Continuing with Catholic schools, a publicly funded Catholic school in Red Deer. This is your way, Twilight. You should know about this.
This is my hometown. This is where I live.
Yeah, totally. Shows an anti-choice video comparing abortion to the Holocaust. Yeah.
That's not all, but I'm not surprised. It's Red Deer.
Yeah, it's Red Deer. Oh, anywhere outside of Edmonton and Alberta, you're pretty much in Jesus land. 2 Michigan doctors.
Edmonton and Calgary.
Edmonton and Calgary, yeah.
Did I say Edmonton? I don't know. Okay.
You said Edmonton. I find Calgary
Edmonton
refreshing.
Yeah, it is. I mean, well, it's the same. It's the usual urban versus rural thing that, you know, it's the same for Saskatchewan, Manitoba, whatever. You're going to find a more conservative clientele in rural prairie towns than you are going to in urban centers. 2 Michigan doctors have been charged with conspiracy to commit female genital mutilation, as well as one of the doctor's wives. And that's rather bizarre. For the first time, actually, in the United States. Medical assistance in dying for the mentally ill. Advocate Adam Maier-Clayton took his own life last week, which is a very sad story. The Ontario government, in a related story, rejects the so-called conscience rights for doctors opposed to MAID to refer patients, which, you know, conscience rights is really just another, it's code for, I don't want my patient to access medical assistance in dying. And Pakistani student Mashal Khan is beaten to death by fellow students at a Pakistani university for blasphemy. Yeah, shock and surprise there, right? So anyway, welcome Cami to the podcast. And of course, I forgot to start the recorder, but it's totally different. Anyway, I'll get that from the YouTube feed. So welcome Cami. Anyway.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on board. I'm excited to be here and to chat with all of you. And yeah, it's great. It's great to be here. I feel a little closer. I haven't lived in Alberta for a year and a half now, so I feel like I'm, missing some essential information. So I appreciated your feed on what's going on and what's in the news, because I missed some things.
Well,
although I get a lot of weather pictures from home. So
yeah, it's cold.
Yeah, well, we just had that hailstorm, which looks like a snowy scene right now. It was really nice this afternoon, honest. And then all of a sudden,
not here. It was freezing. It's still freezing.
Yeah, we were outside with the cats and having gin and tonics and rums and coke, and then all of a sudden it turned into winter.
This is why I want to move to Calgary, and now I'm trapped here again.
Yeah, you're in Hail
All I had
Alley.
was rain. I didn't get any hail. I just
You didn't
got
get any
some rain,
hail.
and it's not very.
Well, see, that's the weird thing about Calgary. In different parts of the city, the weather can be hugely different. I've seen 15-degree temperature gradients, and I'm not talking 15-degree Fahrenheit. I'm talking 15 degrees Celsius. Like huge temperature gradients. It's weird. This place is strange. I want to move to Mexico.
Oh,
it's a big city.
I've got a story about that. Just we have friends who have a ranch in southern Alberta, and my husband would he's a cowboy, so he would often go out and help with roundup and so forth, right? So he heads down there, and he's at the highway turning onto the ranch, and he looks at the temperature on in his truck, and it says -28. He's talking to his buddy who's a mile and a half, 2 miles down the road at their house, and the temperature there is 3 degrees. Like, so there are spots in that province where it can just be going, it's crazy just within like a couple of miles, the difference.
Oh yeah, it's because of the mountains, right? Because air patterns peek through the mountains as opposed to just being blanketing, and they're basically lobes. So Red Deer is Hail Alley. I mean, you know that better than I do, Twyla. You guys get massive storm cells that Calgary usually doesn't get.
We Central Alberta gets the most precipitation out of any of the rest of Alberta, and it varies.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. But you can have these huge temperature differences across the city because the west part of the city is closer to the mountains, and it can be much warmer or receiving much more precipitation than either the east, well, not so much the north, because the north is higher elevation, north part of the city, and it can get a hell of a lot of it, precipitation relative to the south. It's just really screwed up here.
The QE was crazy. I had a postdoc at,
it's a terrible highway.
at University of Alberta. So I would go from, south of Calgary to maybe every 3 weeks. I would head up there and spend a few days. I cannot tell you how many times I'd have to stop and stay with my brother and sister-in-law in Red Deer because the weather, the highway, it was like the Bermuda Triangle. I mean, if there's such a thing on the prairies, but
yeah, once you get past Ponoka and a little bit further, it gets a little less crazy. But we've had major accidents when even it gets too foggy, and then we'll have sudden snowstorms, and then
or fog. I mean, you guys. Last time I was going up to Edmonton because I officially work out of Edmonton, and I was going up there, and all of a sudden I hit a wall of fog just before just basically at the Penhold turnoff, and just like, whoa, what did I just hit? Yeah. It's amazing how quickly that visibility goes down to like 50 meters, and I hate that drive. It's boring. It's not quite as boring as say Calgary to Regina, but I don't know. There's a lot of cops between here and Edmonton.
Until my dad was concerned about me going through the Coachella highway in the middle of January to come see him, and I was like, no, that's nothing. And it really was nothing.
Yeah.
Coca-Cola.
Yeah, I think
sorry.
Coca-Cola.
I mix up those two names all the time.
Coachella, that's not a highway. That's a thing.
That's a event I've never been to.
Me neither.
Yeah.
I don't know. If you read Everyday Feminism, it's not an event I want to go to.
Oh.
I keep sending my poor co-hosts get inundated with these citations to Everyday Feminism from me, and I didn't send you the Coachella one, but
I'm going to start sending you dick pics.
So nice, Randy. That's so cool.
Van Dyke.
You might think that is cool, but it's not. Everyday feminism is not. They're not feminists. Believe me.
They're not every day.
No. Well, they might be every day, but they're not feminists. I would call them racist and sexist, actually.
They're kind of the feminazis.
Yeah, that misandrous.
That's a new one.
I would call them everyday misandrous, not feminists. No. It's just like, hey, did you see this one? Yeah, no, they're amazing. Intersectional feminism, which, by the way, is okay if if you're looking at compounding being a person of color and a woman, fine, but that's not what intersectional feminism has become. It's become something, I don't know.
It makes
some teratogen hit them.
Yeah.
Well, on my take, I think there, when intersectional feminism, probably like there was kind of like in the 70s, it was predominantly white academics, that kind of thing, right? So intersectional feminism came in and really enlightened people on other issues and that kind of thing, right? But now it's become very, I think, North American centered.
Are you saying that being white was reasonable?
What's up?
Are you saying that being white was reasonable?
No, but I mean, it was illuminating to look at other issues through different perspectives, right?
Now send those letters to Christine Shelska.
No, you know what intersectional feminism needs? Intersectional feminism.
Oh!
Right?
Ouch.
They need to listen to things like, ex-Muslims instead of, what's that woman's name? Linda Sarsour or whatever?
Oh, Sarsour. Linda Sarsour.
Yeah,
which, by the way, translates...
in the hijab and all this nonsense.
Do you know what Sarsour translates to?
No.
I found this out on Dave Rubin's show. It translates to cockroach.
Oh, wow.
How
in what
appropriate. Well, I guess in Arabic, but I don't know. I found it so enlightening. Sorry, being bad. Terrible. Anyway.
Well, on that note.
Send those letters to Christine Shelska.
Is this why you call this podcast Diversion?
Yes.
Yeah.
No,
well, actually there is
the Legion of Reason.
Yeah. There's a reason why it's called the Legion of Reason diversion, and the diversion came from an idea that Nate Phelps had. Mm-hmm. And why don't you call it Lord instead of LOR? And I'm like, oh, that sounds cool. So I kind of thought of something. What should the D be? And I came up with diversion. I think that was the best.
But
so anyway, it spells out Lord. It's very, very.
I completely missed that. Man, I missed that.
It's not. Yeah, I know. It's not exactly.
Easy.
We have a logo on the back burner, don't we?
You do, you mean?
No, you have it, don't you?
Do I? I'm not the logo guy.
I thought I sent it to you.
Did you?
With a coat of arms and all that stuff?
Oh, yeah.
And it had Lord in the script?
Yeah, I'll have to look into that. Okay. You probably got a copy of it somewhere. Send it to me again. Yeah. I'm old. I'm old.
I'm old too.
I'm in my 50s, for crying out loud. I'm ripe for Alzheimer's and other forms of dementia.
I'm with you. I'm hot on your heels there, Randy. I'll tell you
thank you.
I can top you. I've got brain fog because I had radiation therapy.
Aww.
A little bit.
Please. No. Yeah, I work around those things. You don't get to say that.
Okay, fair.
Are we keeping score?
And it wasn't aimed at your head.
Score?
No.
All the time. I mean, what's the point otherwise?
Rather, my brain fog is finally dissipating because they finally closed this one door at work to the area that is causing all my misery because of the scent allergies I have. So for once, I'm not dying.
It's all about you, Twyla.
I'm the only healthy one today.
I'm just an asshole.
Because I'm on the page, but I don't see a stream.
Do you don't? Oh my goodness! Did I not start the stream? Oh, that would be bad. No, it should be streaming.
Okay.
Uh-oh. It's big O. I hope it's streaming. Let's turn the volume down. Yeah, it should be streaming. Anyway, so let's move on to the talk of pseudoscience and GMOs and organic substances. I mean, I love organic food as opposed to inorganic food.
Exactly.
You guys don't like nibbling on rocks?
Yeah, I like salt. That's inorganic.
Yeah.
I like salt.
Oh no, but you could get organic salt, Randy. Did you know that?
Well, yeah, the Himalayan salt.
Apparently.
Yeah, have you seen the Himalayan salt?
Yeah, you can.
Yeah, organic, totally GMO free.
Okay, so what's carbon based in that salt?
Nothing.
I hate that they've co-opted a term that means carbon based and made it ridiculous, and everybody's misinformed.
Well, that's the thing.
Well, that happens a lot, though, in marketing and labeling, I find. I mean, you can find gluten-free celery as well.
Yeah.
I mean, it's, yeah.
Now, when did that start, though? When did the whole...
Hold on. I have a hilarious story.
Go ahead. Okay, good.
My dad went to Superstore and they've got some kind of, special if you buy so much. And it was like, I don't know, products for toothpaste, shampoo, this kind of thing. And the toothpaste said non-GMO on it. No, sorry. It said gluten-free on it. Gluten-free toothpaste.
Of course it is.
What toothpaste has gluten in it?
Exactly. And what's wrong with gluten anyway?
That one was gluten-free.
I want my gluten.
They're popcorn kernels. Popcorn kernels with no flavor, just in a bag that you can see through, and it's just popcorn kernels advertised as gluten-free. Since when has popcorn kernels had gluten?
Well, and then they often there's often popcorn labeled non-GMO, but there is no popcorn out there being grown that is GMO. So that's the other thing with labeling, is that oftentimes they put the non-GMO label when there's not even a GMO counterpart to it, right?
Okay, so I do want to talk about labeling a little bit because I saw something on Twitter that you put out there that I really liked. So remind me, but is there a corn out there that is GMO?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Corn has been genetically engineered. Yes, there's a lot of varieties of corn that have been genetically engineered, and probably the most significant and important one out there version is the insecticide resistance one, right? So a lot of corn can be infested by pests, as we know, and in order to manage that, you'd have to put a bunch of insecticides on it. But basically now they've developed this corn variety that really creates its own pesticide from internally. So that means that they can manage their own pests without actually spraying any pesticide on. And the pesticide...
Many plants do that already.
What's that?
Plants have toxic.
They do.
This one's actually edible, and of course people are going to say, "Oh my God, that's so unnatural." But the thing is, other plants do that already, and they're more toxic.
Well, and plants do that because they're protecting themselves from other things in the environment. Nature is pretty amazing that way. I think sometimes we co-opt nature in a way that we go, okay, this is how we think nature should act and so forth. But really, it has its own thing. So everything that maybe we think we romanticize about nature, Mother Nature, or nature out there is actually they're doing their own things without even any man-made interference at all in any way. So it has taken care of itself so that it can evolve and survive. This is how survival happens.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's like mycotoxins. I mean, mycotoxins developed in response to their environment. For mushrooms,
yes, they do.
To be honest. Mycotoxins are damn potent.
And in stores, so they're terrible, and they can happen in, that's another thing too, is that can happen in stores of grain. Like those mycotoxins can grow and develop, and they can be problematic. But if you can develop a variety of grain or something that we eat or a staple food that actually doesn't allow for these mycotoxins, or they don't have these mycotoxins in them, then isn't that better? Because that's one of the things in developing nations that can be a problem in their food stores. They already have difficulties with storing grain and food. And I think in third world countries, they say they lose up to 50% of their stored grain because they don't have the same access to the same kind of industrial storage type facilities that we have here. So, I mean, obviously they're dealing with a whole other set of problems, infrastructure and so forth. But that's a big thing there, mycotoxins too. So there's lots that you could do with genetic engineering that are extremely, like, I mean, they have a social benefit. I mean, a lot of times people go, oh, genetic engineering and GMOs, that's just big ag making big money. But there are a lot of things that I think get forgotten in all of this, in that the science of genetic engineering has this capacity to do so much good.
Mm-hmm.
So is there any downfall to GMOs?
Well, I think it's like anything, right? You have a technology, and I think it depends on, there is science and this way of knowing, and we apply the science. It's how it's applied that's the issue, right? It's where we direct those technologies or that science. So that's why we have regulatory systems. That's why you do market and social impact assessments before releasing anything into the environment. That's why you test everything. So there's always something. That's why these things need to be really judiciously regulated. And I mean, I stand behind that. I always have said that. But I think in a lot of ways, the counterpoint to all of this is that there's been so much rhetoric, so much misinformation around them, that I think that actually this has created problems in the regulatory system, like public perceptions, that have, derailed some really good technologies that could be out there and really benefiting, societies.
Like the golden rice. Has it ever made it anywhere?
No, it's still there, and that's a combination of things. It's not only been pushback from the public, but they've had to. I mean, it's a wonderful concept. Ingo Petrikis, who developed it, he's out of Switzerland, and he actually is an independent university professor that developed this years and years ago. I mean, these things take a long time to develop, right? This is something that, over time they've had to develop better varieties and so forth, but they have gotten such pushback in terms of the NGOs and the NGOs' influence on public perceptions of things. And yes, it's created a lot of holdups, and there's also been the other situations where, university in the UK was developing a wheat variety that they were just doing field trials, and an NGO was threatening to go rip up the field trials. Yeah. I guess the irony in all of it is that, okay, we've got people out there that are pushing back against them, genetic engineering. They say they're not tested enough.
Which they are.
They want them tested, which they are. They want them tested, but then they go and want to rip up all the field trials, which are what they're using to test them. So there's a lot of hypocrisy in the movement, and that's frustrating to a lot of scientists that are just really trying to do good work.
Well, it sounds like a lot of irrational fear. I mean, where does this fear come from, do you think?
Organic farmers that lie.
I think that it's a very natural human thing to be risk averse. I mean, let's face it, that's how we've survived, right? For as long as we have, since the dawn of man. We've survived because if we saw that shaking bush, we go, is it the wind or is it a saber-toothed tiger? You know what? I'm going to go for saber-toothed tiger, and I'm running the other way. So survives, right? But a lot of times we run from the wind. We do.
Yep.
We make those errors, and yes, we save our butts in the process, but at the same time, what do we lose in the process?
Exactly. And when you look at organic farming and organic pesticides and organic this and organic that, and they make GMOs the boogeyman, it astounds me, the information out there and the people that put out that misinformation and who they're funded by. It's incredible.
Well, I think that, and that is a real problem. But, just to clarify too, the organic farming community is completely different than the marketing of organics, right? Like, it's kind of a separate space. They deal with things differently. Organic farmers choose to grow organically, and they can. There's a set of standards around it, and that's the way they choose to produce their food. And in my opinion, we need all the ways to produce food in order to feed our hungry world. And organics is one of them, conventional, GMO. But I think the thing is that gets lost in this, we're so busy kind of being divisive, and there's certain entities out there that want to, perpetuate that divisiveness. So I don't think it's the farmers so much, the organic farmers.
Until you go talk to them at the farmers market, and they spew all that stuff too. And it just, if that's what you got to do to sell your stuff, I can't talk to you because I can't be rude back, of course. And then I just get upset and walk away.
Yeah. Well, and there's I think what's happened with with marketing is that it's just pushed our rhetoric and our language in that direction. So it becomes almost second nature. So even when I'm having conversations with my neighbors down here, and they don't really, they're not involved in the agricultural industry, they're talking in the same language that they hear in
marketing.
Facebook, or that they read, or that so you hear the language being used. And this has been terminologies that have come up, and they're scary. I mean, Frankenfood, for goodness sakes. It was a humanities prof out of Boston that came up with that in 1993, and all he did was write it in a comment in response to an article that was placed in one of the mainstream newspapers in the States here. And that word has just carried through for 20 plus years. It carries with it such a visual negative connotation, and people just grab onto it. I think we as human beings, because we're risk averse, because we need a boogeyman in our life, we need a boogeyman. We need boogeyman. We need a hero. We need a villain. We need a victim. We need those stories in our lives. I think we actively seek those things out. So as soon as we find something that fits into a narrative, a preconceived notion, then I think we lock onto it. And that's a very human response.
Yeah, I like Frankenberry.
Yeah.
Frankenberry is awesome. Like, I actually have a box.
Really?
Upstairs. Yeah, I actually have a box of that upstairs. But yeah,
I would call that.
It's a great marketing.
I would factor that in with Fruit Loops, which I always loved to buy. I would buy a box of Fruit Loops, like as a treat for the kids every now and then. But really, it was not called breakfast cereal. Right. It was a treat.
Right.
So do they come with prizes still?
Do they come with what?
Prizes. Remember, you used to get cereal and have little prizes in it?
No.
Oh my gosh!
Different.
I forgot about that.
Yeah.
But Fruit Loops come with prizes ever? I don't remember that.
Cereals used to have little prizes.
Some did. Yeah. Yeah, they did.
They did. I forgot about that.
I don't think Fruit Loops ever did, but some of them did. No, Frankenberry was one of my favorites.
I never had Frankenberry.
It never scared anybody there. I mean, but you got to admit, that's a pretty great marketing word.
There is, and I mean, marketing is a big thing. And, I think probably the sociologist in me, what frustrates me most is that we've got a lot of people in the world suffering. We're very lucky in North America. Overall, we live a fairly high standard of life. I mean, it's not across the board. There are a lot of people that that are hungry and suffer here as well. But what we have is what percentage of the global population basically making the decision for, 98% of the rest of the population that may not be doing as well. And, organics tend to be more expensive. I think the other thing that really has bothered me, just as a mom, my kids are grown now, so I'm a mother of millennials, but as I didn't have this kind of pressure when I was raising my kids, but I look at the pressure now. You have, like, I was a single parent at one time, and I didn't have like 2 pennies to rub together sometimes. If I had to deal with the pressure of thinking that if I didn't feed my kids organic food, that I was somehow up there, like, you already have enough pressure as a parent as it is. Like, I mean, having that on top of that, I think is really, really, really unfortunate. That's a loss to society. I think that's a real problem.
The falsities, like saying that GMOs, you can't use the seeds again for next year. Well, what farmer saves seeds? The organic farmers don't save seeds. The conventional farmers don't save seeds. And yet they make it sound like now suddenly people are being forced not to be using save seeds. There's many reasons why farmers don't save the seeds, and one of them is quality control. So to make things up, to make something else bad when it's just the same as everything else, it becomes upsetting to me, because then everybody learns all these falsities and they believe them, and it's absolutely impossible to erase.
Yeah, it is. I think the other thing too that happens in all of this is that, that we use that word co-opting a lot, and I think there's a lot of people who most of the population are pretty much generationally and geographically removed from the farm and food production. They don't really know how food is grown, but they seem to, there it seems to this thing where we want so much to know about how our food is grown, but we also choose to keep our eyes closed to how it's grown, right? And in that case, we want to kind of co-opt farming and make it how we dream it should be. Because we really don't know how it is. I mean, I worked in agriculture for over 20 years, and I come from a farming community. I have been on a combine a total of 3 times in my life, and a seeder twice in my life. I've driven a grain truck to the elevator a few times. That's the limit. And I know, and in my opinion, that farming operation I know so little about. The farmer is the expert. They know their land, they know what they're doing, but sometimes as a society we feel we can co-opt all of that expertise and kind of decide, oh, you're not doing what's right.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of I think that's unfortunate, because I think we've kind of, it's like Tom Nichols has this book out called Death of Expertise. He just published it. It's really great. But that's what we're dealing with right now. We've got this world of massive misinformation. What's that?
The Dunning-Kruger effect.
Yeah, and all of that is that we're dealing with this mass misinformation, and we have we have this problem, like expertise is no longer viewed the same way as it was.
Well, it's not valued anymore.
There's a struggle with this too, because there was a pushback from society in that sometimes experts didn't always, they were removed, and that's a lot of things. Like especially when you're dealing with academics or professors. Our job was when we're in the system our job is to remain removed from society, because that's what we're studying, right? It's objectivity, it's a culture, it's whatever. But I think it put us in this position where we were so removed that I think it created a strain for us. So that break in between society. So even now, and especially with GMOs in particular, the Pew Institute did a study, I think it was last year or the year before, but the widest or the biggest gap between what experts say and what the general population says about the safety of GMOs, that's the widest gap there is out there of any technology. So
people still believe it's not tested.
Yeah, well, they do, and you try
to
explain it, and then and it's not easy to explain either. It's complex. It takes like 13 years and $130 million to bring, one crop variety with a trait to the market. It's long, it's complex. A lot of the work is done very early to decide what is the best trait and what will be the best thing. And then you still have to go through all of the testing and go through the regulatory hurdles. And the interesting thing is that the regulatory hurdles now are a lot higher and harder than they were before. Yeah. And the system is not more rigorous. It's just that because of the pressures, public perceptions and pressures, it slowed the process down. And, that all that does is it just, creates more costs. I think that slows down innovations that can be beneficial to societies and so forth. So, yeah, it's unfortunate, that piece of it.
What I like about you is you seem to be trying to be part of the force that's trying to educate.
Well, okay, so my job with regulatory policy and scientific affairs, my official job is I do outreach to social scientists. And the reason why, this is something completely different in industry. As far as I know, I am the first person to have a job like this in the agricultural industry. And I'm kind of excited about it.
Yeah.
But what I see is up until now, when you think about a corporation, just off the top of your heads, tell me what you think. When you think corporation, what do you think in terms of disciplines? Like a company like Monsanto, what would you think?
Hierarchies and bosses and
evil empire.
Disciplines though. Let's start
management, commerce,
right? Mm-hmm.
Marketing,
profit mongers.
Okay. So this is a very traditional viewpoint, right? But what's happening is because of all of, and I don't believe it's just with our company, it's a lot of companies that technology-driven companies. All of a sudden, what you're dealing with is a public that basically has access to lots of information. They don't really know how to filter it, all of that information. They become citizen journalists themselves. Anybody can kind of step onto a soapbox, start a blog, write an article, and put it out there. So that whole environment has completely changed, which means that corporations, already kind of probably vilified in a number of ways, are set with this thing of going, oh, we got something else we got to deal with here, because what's going on out there is also impacting our business. But the other piece of this, and I think that probably what drives me most, and we've talked about it so far, and what has always driven my work in the past when I was working for the university, is that how all of this misinformation creates, it's not about necessarily what's happening with the corporation, but the corporation is what's going to get those seeds to the market, right? You're not going to be having universities doling them out their back door, right? That's not their job. That's not what universities do. So there is a role for the private sector out there in getting needed technologies downstream. But what happens is you get misinformation down at this end, really impacting what can get to the other end. And I mean, you just have to think about golden rice. You have to think about, a good story actually is the papaya in Hawaii. That's a really good story. But that could have been a difficult one as well. But, these are the things that I think drive my passion the most. Monsanto has, and I think everybody knows this, it's been a bit of a
Sorry, you said Monsanto.
You were waiting for me.
I was totally waiting for this.
Sorry, I'll try and say it a few more times too, just to kind of get the drama. But I think, it's a company that has been a lightning rod for a lot of things. I mean, there are a lot of other companies out there doing the same kind of work, but most people don't know about them. But the thing is that I think what leadership would say, what the company would say, and I've heard them say this before, and I believe this too, is that we had all of these problems, the company had all of these problems over the years, but they didn't say anything. They didn't do anything, right? Because they thought, okay, it's going to go away or whatever. We weren't good. The company wasn't good at communicating the type of science it does. That was a mistake, especially in this day and age, because you have to be, it's not like you're hiding anything. You're You're just thinking, well, this is not where we put our money. This is not how we talk to the farmers, we talk to the shareholders, and we talk to our employees. That's all we talk to. What happened was we ended up being part of the Monsanto.
There we go.
Hey, Randy.
I got to be quicker. I promise to be quicker.
The company was being part of a food conversation that they weren't even involved in. So I think what we tried to do over the last several years is try to be more involved in that conversation. And for me, when this opportunity came up, I really loved it because they are doing different things. Like 10 years ago, you wouldn't see a chief technology officer of a company writing a blog post for Huffington Post. You wouldn't see him going out on a stage in New York City and having a debate in front of a public forum. He probably, or the company might not have even brought in Bill Nye for a visit. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, these aren't things that you would normally have done 10 years ago, and they most certainly wouldn't have hired a social scientist. But because
not to mention, Bill Nye was anti-GMO at one point.
Yeah, he was. And actually, our CTO, Rob Fraley, was on his show the other night. So on Netflix, Bill Nye's.
Oh, yeah, Bill Nye Saves the World. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's not on Canadian Netflix, so I can't find it.
You know what? And maybe it's not.
I'm kind of sad.
I don't know what to tell you. I'm sorry.
I love Bill Nye.
But, that was the thing, is that what was happening was there was all of this, people are generationally, geographically moved from the farm. They don't understand food production. The industry wasn't necessarily stepping up and talking about the kind of work they were doing. It was kind of like a perfect storm of things that could happen. I think we're changing that now. And if you guys pay attention to anything out there, you probably notice that there are a lot of farmers out there engaging now. They got blogs, they tweet. It's awesome. Funny. Oh my gosh, they're so
Nurse
funny.
Loves Farmer is one of my favorite. Nurse Loves Farmer.
She's got a little bit of a snarky thing going on, and I love her voice. There's also, if you are interested in listening to a different podcast, Rob Sharkey from the Sharkey podcast, and he brings on a whole bunch of different people, and they talk about anything from crop protection to farmers and mental illness, and I mean, he covers the gamut, and it's so great. So I think what's happening now is I think people in industry are not only stepping up and talking about all of this stuff, but they're doing it in really creative ways. And that to me is exciting because there's such diversity in the public. I mean, we're global. This whole world is global. We're kind of, we're mixing and mingling. So all of a sudden, the more different voices you have involved in talking about something, the better, because you can reach different audiences. I mean, even Babe, for instance, she's got a really interesting voice, and she can reach different audiences. And I think this is where it matters the most. This is not about companies. This is about science, and science has been derailed because of some of the pseudoscience, some of the misinformation. And I think we need to think about science and scientific integrity in a new way and try and get new voices mobilized to talk about it differently. That's what you guys do.
Thank you.
Okay, sure.
No, all of these little things, I've seen a lot less of March Against Monsanto lately.
Well, I really like that the numbers...
Sorry, a little late on that one.
I really like that the numbers seemed pretty high for March for Science over the weekend.
Exactly.
Yeah, it was good. It was good to see all of those people out there. I
think unfortunately the March for Science in the U.S. was a little bit marred by identity politics. I mean,
I tried to ignore a lot of that.
Yeah, I mean, we're getting back to Bill Nye again, because Bill Nye would be a perfect face for the March for Science, but he's too white and too male. Wow. I really had to.
There's also Neil deGrasse Tyson. He was all over Twitter.
Sure. Absolutely, I would love to see Neil deGrasse Tyson out there. But he's male. He's too male.
That's why Cami's got to get out there and I guess
sure.
tan. Go on.
Yeah. or something. Yeah,
I was a little disappointed.
But you know, it's interesting though, because what you find with a lot of these movements, there's so much passion behind it, and there was a lot of people from our company that actually went and marched this weekend too, and very, very passionate about it for all the right reasons, right? And you know, but there's always somebody that's going to take a given event and they're going to co-opt it for whatever purposes they have, and that's what happens. So you know, I have to just believe from my end that this is one piece of a bigger puzzle of pushing forward and, you know, really being optimistic about what science can do for society and kind of reclaiming that space of where we need to be. But we have to be out there. The scientists and even us at Monsanto, we have to step out. We have to humanize the work that we do. We have to humanize who we are, because at the end of the day, a company is a company, but a company is made up of people. And we have a lot of say in how that company operates, and people just don't put up with stuff, and they won't put up. It's a great company to work for. We were one of the first companies to put in place a human rights policy 10 years ago, and a lot of companies now are actually using it as a template for their own. We were really progressive with the lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgendered policies and diversity and inclusivity in our walls. That's huge. And I can't believe how much it's been driven down here in Missouri, which I think we also know is kind of a red state. But honestly, there's a lot of progressive people in the company, and the company actually, I think it's surprising when people hear about who we are and how we identify and the type of products that we bring to a lot of farmers that really like them and use them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
well,
that's
and
the
you guys
thing.
won an award too, I thought, for how employees are treated and the diversity and the amount of women in the company.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that like 39% of our globe, like our leadership, like our executive, are women.
That's amazing.
39 to 45, yeah, for sure. Because I remember the day I went and had my interview, I had 7 interviews in that day, 7 1-hour interviews back to back.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. Bring the coffee in. 6 of the 7 interviews were with women.
Yeah.
Global leads. So yeah, it's pretty great. But you know what? A lot of people. I just kind of want to like point out some myths about farming. I think sometimes those of us that are in the know forget that not everybody knows this. But I think some people think that when you are a farmer that farms with genetically engineered seed, that's all you farm with. But you don't. Some years you might use genetically engineered seed, and you might do corn, and then you might rotate it out with something else that may or may not be a genetically engineered seed. And there are some farmers that do organic farming alongside of conventional and genetic engineering.
But not on the same quarter, though.
Well, there's always that you got to have those buffers, right?
Yeah.
But there are farmers that do it, because there's farmers that have plots of land in different spaces, right? So I think we get into this thing of thinking, oh, you're a GMO farmer. Well, no, I'm a farmer. I'm a farmer. That's what I am. And they make all of these decisions, and they pick the best seed, and they have to rotate. You know, those are the things that matter. And those decisions that they make every day, a million of them every day, then they have to deal with the weather, which is a whole other thing. They have to deal with markets, right? So, you know, I think farming I think any farmer would stand up and say, I love this life. I love this farm. It is my business, and it's hard work, and they do work hard. So having a technology that makes their life a little bit easier and helps them protect their land for future generations, I think is not a bad thing. And I mean, we shouldn't push back on it.
Exactly. My boss, my chief, is a farmer, and he takes time off to deal with his farm, and I have a tremendous amount of respect for him.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up on a farm.
You know, when I was born, I was academically born and raised in an agricultural college, right? So around me, a lot of, you know, ag professors are farmers. So, they're kind of gone during, seeding and gone at harvest. And yeah, I mean, you get that there's a level of pragmatism that comes when you have somebody who is not only an academic and is brilliant, but also has this sort of hands-on piece. And then they come back and they share those stories. It's I think it's amazing. And I wish more of them would, talk about it more.
Yeah, because in what you've said, they end up being GMO farmers. They might have an organic crop. They might have this, they might have that. And when these misinformation campaigns come out, it's almost so disrespectful against the farmers. It's like you're telling them you're stupid. And I that's where I start getting upset as well, because you're telling consumers that this is not a good thing when it's perfectly fine and acceptable, and you're also insulting the farmers.
Yeah, and that's the thing that probably I find most appalling. I was raised to respect my elders. My grandmother really instilled this in me, but she also very much instilled in me to be very aware of my boundaries, of what I know and what I don't know. And I think that was more, she's trying to raise a polite child, right? She was trying to tell me, okay, you know what, you don't be disrespectful to people, and you don't be a know-it-all, and all of those things. And I think what that did for me was put me in a position of finding it easier to go, you know what, I don't know, but I'm going to ask someone who I know knows.
Thank you.
You know what I mean?
Google University?
Well, yeah, but that seems to be the go-to place.
It is nowadays, unfortunately. Yeah.
It is. And, Steve Novella wrote a really nice piece on Google University about a year ago. Gosh, that piece was amazing. Anyway, I shared it a lot. But no, it's interesting. It's interesting how we would want to deprive a farmer of a technology, but we wouldn't take away QuickBooks from an accountant and give them a ledger and an abacus, right?
That's perfect.
That would be appalling to most people.
You.
Like, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And if we think about genetic engineering in this way, and this is how I think about it. So you've got like your iPhone or your Android in front of you, and everything about that phone works for you, right? You have the apps on it that you like. If you think about a trait going into a corn variety, it's like an app going onto your phone. It serves a certain purpose, and that's exactly what this is. But the irony of all of this is that people will want to pull that app, that piece of technology that is so valuable to a farmer, away from a farmer, but they'll hold tightly to their iPhone. They'll hold tightly to that iPhone.
And I really wish they taught more genetics in school instead of just in bio class, because genetics is a language, and a lot of people aren't even aware how much plant DNA we have in us, or fish DNA, or they just seem to think that these mutant foods are going to suddenly kill them while they're told by the misinformation campaign it's going to cause cancer. And there's just no way why it would cause cancer any more than organic food would.
Yeah, and I think that, again, it comes back to, we need a villain, a victim, and a hero. And we just need to assign that. Because I always think if we ever get to the point where we go, okay, GMOs, they're okay, it's just going to be something else. So I
want it to be something else for once. I just don't know what.
Problem is, what is that something else?
What is that something else, and where, and then who else is put at risk because of that, and who else?
Exactly.
The one thing
is our global food supply, though. It is absolutely like air. It's like air, water, food. This is something, vilify, like, I don't know, Mars or something. Leave our food alone.
How about who is it that's using up water from the fresh water sources?
Nestle is getting vilified.
Nestle, it was Nestle, yeah. So
Nestle.
Exactly. There you go. There's your villain. You've got another villain, and you have another resource which is being supposedly abused. But it just goes. With organic, same thing. The evil regular farmers, the so-called traditional. I don't know what that means. Traditional farmers, because farming has advanced so much over the last number of decades. And yeah, I wanted to get back to this label thing because something you posted at one point I remember was about labeling. Instead of labeling GMO, non-GMO, label carbon footprint.
You know what? And that's something I don't remember posting this, but okay, I believe I would have, because yeah. But that's a huge thing, right? Like, so if maybe we're labeling for the wrong things, but
exactly.
Labeling right now the way it is, the non-GMO, like that third-party certification process and all of that, I mean, that is a means to an end. That has little to do with informing the consumer. It has more to do with vilifying a technology.
Exactly.
In my opinion. Now, if we really want to be informative, see, this is what a lot of people don't understand, is when the whole labeling thing came up, everybody says, well, why don't you want to label? What's with the labeling? I think anybody who understands this area is not against labeling. I think it's like voluntary labeling's fine. Mandatory labeling comes with a whole other set of issues, because you have to, by law in Canada and the US, your labels have to be meaningful. If they at all kind of misinform or mislead the consumer, then you are breaking the law. So there is these it's kind of gray area, and people kind of want to push the boundaries. Voluntary labeling is something that, food companies can take on and go, here, we're going to label our food proudly and say it's genetically engineered, and we can produce more with less, blah, blah, shape it that way. And these are kind of the things that they're starting to experiment with a little bit, trying to think about how can we put a meaningful label on food that a consumer will go, oh, okay, I see. And it doesn't mislead them, right?
Exactly. A lot of GMO food, when they started going GMO free, became far less nutritious. Yet no one really looked at that part.
Well, not so much less nutritious, but they
were lacking in nutrients that GMO foods had.
But they weren't lacking any more than they were before GMOs.
Oh, no, you take GMOs out of the products, there was less vitamin A, less zinc, less riboflavin. It was actually less nutritious when it came to the cereals especially.
So are you saying that before the advent of GMOs that
No, when they went, like say General Mills went GMO free, their cereals became less nutritious.
Right, but you understand what I'm saying, that before the advent of GMOs, it's no different, right?
No, I mean, and okay, you're both right, Christine. Yeah. I remember that there was that difference. There was the difference in the labeling. I remember that. I can't remember how they attributed that. I know there was a group of us talking about it and trying to understand why that was less, because. But Randy, you're also correct. Like, we have good nutritious food, period. Yeah. It doesn't matter if it's organically grown. There's nothing that says that organic is any more nutritious, healthier, or safer, and
or
vice
even more
versa.
flavorful.
It's all healthy and safe. Or I get a lot of arguments from a lot of my friends that are foodies. Well, no, I had my organic thing. It was really good. I said. Oh. Is it because this thing was organic, or is it because that woman that you bought it from at the farmer's market picked it out of her backyard that morning? And do you also know that piece of that vegetable tastes it's a function of the soil it was planted in? I mean, there's a whole bunch of other factors that play into all of this as well. And I think most people don't know, but they just want to attribute it to the halo effect that we call organic.
Yes. And that's
at the end of the day, like me, and I want from my family and my friends, I want them to know how lucky we are where we live in the world, the quality of the food that we have, the variety. I mean, we have 35% more variety of fruits and vegetables than we did when I was a kid growing up in the 60s and 70s. We spend 80% less time in preparation and cleanup than we did 40 years ago. We are living how much longer than we did 100 years ago? If I were 100 years ago, I probably would have been dead by now. I'm going to be 52 this fall. Like, that's old age 100 years ago.
Yes.
You know, yes. I mean, we are very fortunate, but I don't know if we've gotten so that our standard of living is such that we have the luxury to start making up bad stuff.
Exactly. And that comes to my point. If you're going to make people label these things and you're going to make people go non-GMO, you should also have to look at, okay, well, now it's this much iron versus this much iron. Now we're at this much. Like, people don't realize, A, the boogeyman isn't the boogeyman, and B, this food is actually kind of better for you if you want to look at why we're doing this and why it would be better for a third world country to have that golden rice or to have this cereal that's fortified with this much riboflavin, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, and those to me are really important things, those third world things. Like, they introduced a maize in South Africa there. Like, if you take the global scale of agriculture, 68% of all of the work, the hard work that's done in the world in farming is done by women. Okay. Yeah. And most of that is done in countries that don't have the luxury of mechanization like we do here, right?
Yeah, they're sowing in the field. They're working with their hands.
They're working with their hands. So if you can provide them with a maize variety that actually is, glyphosate or is Roundup resistant, Roundup ready, and then they have all of a sudden a reduced weed, then they're spending less time in the field. They're spending more time with their family. They maybe can have an option of going and getting education. They can go get an off-farm job. These are the kinds of things. It's not complete, right? We're dealing with third world countries that have infrastructure issues. They got, they can't necessarily get the credit. Yeah, I mean, there are other things, and I'm not dismissing that. But why do we want to take away a tool?
Exactly, a tool. Science is a tool.
Why do you want to take away a tool from something that is beneficial? And I don't understand that argument. And
because they've been told it's harmful. They've been told these people are being duped and that they're getting lied to and they're getting poisoned and they're getting cancer. And the rhetoric is so out there, but people don't know that. And then when they get to decide for that third world country, I don't even. And the funny thing is, with all these other issues that are coming up, we're starting to, I don't know if I'm just seeing it less myself, but with Trump coming in and such, do the march against Monsanto people have less time on their hands? What's up with that?
Well, I don't know. I think actually, I could be wrong. I think it's going to fizzle out because I don't think that it was based purely on Monsanto.
And not.
Yeah.
Wasn't expecting that
one. When you have a movement that where it comes from a grassroots space, that it really is looking for some true social good, I think that those movements have sustainability. Other ones, maybe not so much. But I want to throw this at you because I heard this. I was at University of Missouri the other day. They have this new social science institute that opened up called the Food Equation Institute, and this chap Jack Bobo was there, and he was speaking, and he said every 4 seconds one person dies of hunger in this world. The next 35 years are the most important in agriculture, and this is why. You know how we keep saying, how are we going to feed all of these billions of people and blah 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 blah. Well, what they're starting to see is as countries become more developed, they're going to have less children. Okay, so in like the year 2050, they expect that the population may start leveling off. But what we do between now and 2050, we have the arable land area that we have to use to grow stuff in. We have very little left. Like, we've got what we've got. So we have to make sure that what we've got produces more. So yield, it matters. and for the most thing, optimizing yields, because that's what it's about. It's always been for companies like Monsanto.
Oh, sorry.
Wow. Anyway,
put that together better.
For companies like our company, it's about optimizing yields. It's about making sure that there's less weeds, less insects, less pests. You're trying to manage the pests, right? So the more that we can do, put better technology in the field and help with this, and actually other things like water use efficiency, nitrogen use efficiency, those are things that are really going to be huge over the next 35 years. These are what's going to enable us to be able to sustain ourselves at that point in the future. So, yeah, I mean, right now we're at a crucial point, but what we have is we have a lot of misinformation, a lot of angry folks that, really are pushing the envelope. And the real problem here is that all of those first world people that are pushing the envelope in this way are having impact on some of the poorest people in the world.
And they don't care, or they don't know. And if they know, they don't seem to care.
Yeah. It's unintentional virtue signaling.
Yeah, and I was on stage or on a panel with Mark Linus in, I don't know, a couple of years ago or something in Saskatoon, and he was telling, he has such good stories, and I don't know if you know Mark Linus.
Yes, he's one of my heroes.
But
yeah, he's just terrific. Anyway, he was telling a story about how NGOs from the EU will go down into these subsistence areas with pictures of vegetables with baby arms and things, photoshopped onto them.
Oh, wow.
They will, and then these people don't even know what a printer is in Photoshop, let alone.
So they think it's real.
Technology. They're superstitious, so they think this is real. And then you have the other problem where they grow cassava, which is kind of like a starchy potato plant.
Their staple.
Yeah, it's their staple. And then what happens is you've got these people that they've got this kind of a virus that just basically eats the plant from inside out. Yeah. And they 3 miles away, and Mark told us about this. He says 3 miles away, this farmer can see this locked up area where they have field trials of this virus resistant cassava. Beautiful.
They look great.
Yes. And they cannot have it because of the pushback from the NGOs and the influence they have on governments down there. These are the real problems. These are the real problems, I think.
That's amazing. Yeah, I don't get that.
People don't get to see that part. They don't realize.
No.
And yet Mark is vilified. He's one of the main targets of a lot of the anti-GMOs because, he's passionate about it. He knows what he's talking about. It's just like
he flips sides, so he's in a bit of a bad position because I think that
he wasn't anti-GMO very long. Right. He's like Bill Nye. He actually learned, and now he's down there on the ground.
Mm-hmm. He was originally Greenpeace, right?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, I know what you're talking about now. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So he has a really good story, and he's really brilliant, and that's what makes it so compelling. But he's also threatening for that very reason as well, too. So oftentimes those people are, and that's the same with Patrick Moore. He got fed up of Greenpeace, and he got out of there, and he's been doing something completely different now.
The astronomer?
Patrick Moore. He was the founder of Greenpeace.
He left.
Different Patrick Moore.
He'll outline how far crazy Greenpeace has gone since he founded it.
Yeah. And that was the thing that he had trouble with as well. He says they started out being very scientific.
They did?
And then, I mean,
long time ago. Yeah,
long time.
They've gone completely off
and the kind of work they were doing. I mean, I was a Greenpeace card carrier. I really thought they were pretty terrific too. And but what they've been getting exceedingly anti-science. And it's problematic, and they're losing their charitable status in some spaces. So that's another signal for that as well. But
Unfortunately, since it's a good thing, unfortunately, since they are anti-science now, it's just really sad they didn't stay on the science route.
Mm-hmm. It is too bad, because I think we need, although there's been some nice, what I like to think of, and if you ever get a chance to read it, it is amazing. It's the Eco-Modernism Manifesto. Mm-hmm. So look it up. It's really good. Mark Linus was part of that group that developed that. But basically, they're looking at things like, how can we use technology to make the earth green? Better. So really, rather than polarizing this issue one side to the other, how can we use these technologies to make the world a better place, to make it more sustainable? And actually, it's a brilliant piece, and I love the language in it. If you read it, you'll have to let me know what you guys think of it, because I mean, all of my electives in university were in literature and fine arts, so I really love like creative writing and stuff. And the way they wrote this was brilliant. It's very pragmatic, yet it is beautifully written. And when you can see something beautifully written, I don't know, I have an appreciation for it. So, but there's a lot of what I would call a movement now of pragmatism in the environment movement. They're pushing back on what previous models have done, and they're starting to look a little bit more pragmatically at, well, what does this mean? And yes, how can technology work? So I'm kind of hopeful around that. I think that those are things that I think will have a really positive impact on what we do moving forward in the next several decades.
Well, it's due in part to what Monsanto is doing with folks like you.
Well, you know what? I'm just one person, one cog of the wheel in Monsanto. Thank you, Randy. So I just really enjoy my job, and I think that it's been a really great opportunity. And I think what I would like to see, and what I'm going to see, I believe will happen more and more now. I know we are struggling in the public sector. There's not as many faculty jobs anymore. Those of us that were working there, like for me, I wasn't a faculty person. I was on long-term research contracts, which were great, but that's another reality. People are being pushed into sessional positions and so forth. And so it's changing. But what I think is a lot of social scientists can have really great jobs in the private sector, and there's demand for it. Like I see a job pop up like mine in any number of sectors on LinkedIn or whatever. I'm always looking because it makes me curious. I want to find out where my people are. So especially in the private sector, because it feels like there's maybe so few of us. And I think there's going to be more and more. And I think that means opportunities for, like, I had one of our internal conferences a few months ago, I had a guy come up to me from India and he goes, you know what we need on staff? And I said, what? He goes, we need an anthropologist, a cultural anthropologist. And I said, you're right, we do. We're a global company. We need a cultural anthropologist on staff. Awesome. So people are thinking in this way now. And that to me is so exciting, because what that means that as companies, we're going to be better. I think it means we're going to be better. Social and behavioral sciences have a place within the walls of the private sector. And I think we can help companies be better. Yes, profiters, but more responsible. Because nowadays, I don't think companies can get away with doing much without being found out. It's just, which is good. If you're not being radically transparent, someone's going to find your stuff out. So put it out there and be the best you can be and be responsive. And I think also employees and shareholders are demanding it of them.
That's interesting, because so it's coming from both sides.
Yes, definitely. I mean, there is that's one thing about Monsanto, which is interesting, because I think, Christine, you mentioned earlier, you think of them as being hierarchical, and it's not. It's a very flat organization.
Mm-hmm.
And
I was tossing out the stereotypes.
Yeah, well, no, and that is a stereotype. But what's interesting, it makes it harder to work in. But what's really fascinating about this company is when we identify a problem's been identified. So then you bring a bunch of people in the room, and it doesn't matter what their job title is. It's how they can contribute, what they can contribute. And all of a sudden, if depending on what the problem issue is, who leads that whole thing, it has nothing to do with seniority. It has to do who has the most passion, who has the drive, who can carry it to the end, who can make things happen. And so what you end up is you pull in all of these people with all of these amazing skill sets, and that's how you go through the problem solving process. And I think that that's really interesting, and that kind of runs counterintuitive to a lot of what we would stereotype as a private sector model. I mean, in my department alone, I can poke my head out my office door and I can go right. And right beside me, I have a chemist. Next to him, I have a pediatrician. Then I have an animal scientist. Then I have a medical toxicologist who actually, she also works part-time in the ER every weekend. I mean, these are the kind of people that work in this company, and this is the brain power. And if you don't know something, you can go ask somebody, and if they don't know, they know someone who does. Like, it's just, the science is really strong, and I think that that's why I like working for the company. That's my big plug for the company. It's brilliant. I like working with those people.
So my one question I'm wondering with this change in government, I don't see it affecting private companies too much, but do you foresee anything?
It's so hard to say.
Yeah.
You mean do you mean Trump?
Yeah. Yeah, just Republicans, Trump.
The guy I didn't vote for.
I don't.
Yeah. After 8 years of having
because
what I saw as a sensible government. It's a big change, but again, if anything, I don't think they'll touch regulations for GMOs very much. They certainly won't really. Like, it seems like they're loosening up regulations for a lot of things, but I don't think they would touch the GMO ones.
Yeah, you know what? And that, honestly, Christine, that's not even clear to me where that's at right now. And I always giggle down here because I always say, well, I didn't vote for him. Well, because I can't, because I'm a Canadian citizen, so I have a prime minister, actually. So
yeah, I so can vote for him, and I didn't.
That was Twi'lek.
Was that Twi'lek?
I don't mind getting mistaken for Christine.
Yeah, that's okay.
Oh, okay.
The feisty one.
Anyway. But I don't think that it's not really clear what those impacts are going to be, and we may not see them for a while either. So I mean, who knows? And I have to tell you, I've realized coming down here that I am really naive as to American politics. It was very interesting moving down here when we did, because we moved down before the election, and it was very intense. And then during the election and post, I mean, like, it's been like for the last year and a half, it's been very intense down here, but it's clear that I have a lot to learn, and I even just trying to find out, can someone please give me a website so I can go read this executive order so I understand it, rather than reading my Facebook feeds, that always, that's tough too, is even getting information.
And it's an executive order. It still has Congress. A few. Yeah, like, Trump has done a lot, but he hasn't actually accomplished anything with the government, with actually getting things changed, passed, etc. So it's been a lot of.
But it's early, right? Like I don't know. I remember when I took my poli-sci classes and public administration. Really, the window for when someone comes into power, they've got a very short window to get stuff done, and then they're working on the next campaign, right? Like, that to me is what happens. So even now, he's just coming out of the election process. He's going to have this window, and then he's going to probably start ramping up for the election, I'm assuming. Well, I don't know.
And he hasn't stopped. He's holding rallies still.
Yeah, well, next December is another election, right? So not this coming December, but the one following. For Senate seats. So, they're going to be ramping up for that very soon. Because
if anything, you want to prevent him from doing anything.
Well, he's been prevented pretty well so far. The courts have.
Yeah, so far the courts have
shut him down.
No. Yeah.
And so,
anyway, I can hardly keep up with it. I can hardly keep up with it.
It's a learning curve for sure.
Yeah, it is. And so I'm very careful about, saying things one way or the other, because I go back to what Grandma told me. And, if you don't know, don't say anything because you can get yourself into trouble pretty quick. But I will say this though. I'm an optimist.
Yay.
We will be fine. It will be fine. This is about the people. This is about what I call, well, I'm a humanist, so I believe people will just rise above. We will be fine. This is a piece of history that's very interesting, and we will be fine at the end of it.
So you're not part of Antifa?
I'm not part of what?
Antifa.
What is that?
Anti-fascist. It's you don't know Antifa? Well, it's the group
anti-fascist movement?
Yeah, anti-fascist is short for anti-fascist, and they've been going after the alt-right at Berkeley. That was that big battle they had with the. Did you ever see the video of the young woman who is in dreadlocks, which are culturally appropriated? But besides that, she got a fist to the nose. Of course, she was out there. Oh, she had it coming. She's out there looking for trouble. She wrote on Facebook that this is one of many people that are part of Antifa, and she wrote on Facebook that she was going to come back with 100 alt-right scalps. That's a quote, by the way. And so she goes out there. She goes out there with one of these punching gloves, that are leather on her right hand. Like, she's looking for trouble. Goes to an alt-right demonstration, and if they'd have ignored them, things would have been fine. Just ignore them. Everybody's disappointed. Goes home, and it's like, okay, well, we wasted an afternoon. No. What Antifa does is goes and looks for a confrontation, and somebody puts off a smoke bomb, really dumbly being downwind of the smoke bomb, and it just turned into a mess. And so there's a real battle between the alt-right and Antifa, and she ends up getting bopped in the nose, and now is claiming that she has and she looks absolutely fine now. It's 2 days later, or I guess a couple of days later, and she's saying that she needs $45,000 for medical bills. I'm like, seriously? I don't think so. Yeah. It's just this whole right-left
thing. This is why I can't keep up. I cannot keep up.
Yeah.
There's just so much stuff.
It was amazing. This whole campus shut down free speech thing by the extreme left is just amazing. It just boggles my mind.
And then you make martyrs out of the right. Good job, guys.
Yeah, you make the right look more reasonable. Congratulations. Yeah. Dumbasses.
Yeah. So Randy, you and I talked about this a little bit. We talked about Jonathan Haidt or Haidt.
Jonathan Haidt. Yeah. I want to have him on so bad.
Yeah, and and the Heterodox Academy that he started up about 2 years ago out of NYU. Did I tell you about that? Okay.
Yes,
so anyway, follow them. Follow they put out about 5 blog posts a week, and very interesting. So they're trying really hard. What Jonathan did a few years ago was he decided to just check and see what the temperature, quote unquote, of social psychologists. So he's a social psychologist. So he wanted to do a survey of social psychologists, faculty members, and find out what their political leanings were. So I can't remember how many he each out, 1,500 or 2, I don't know, whatever. He figured out that less than 5% identified conservative. Mm-hmm. Now, he always identified as being left-leaning, but now he would call himself a centrist. But his argument was, how can we do our job as social scientists, truly, if we do not have a balance of voices within the system that we have? And if we're still attracting just one side of the discussion or the dialogue, aren't we missing a piece of what we need to really problem solve? And this is his whole philosophy behind the Heterodox University and our academy, and I love it because they're pushing that envelope on campuses and saying, you know what, you got to have dialogue. You got to have dialogue. I mean, and he takes it from a very reasoned perspective, right? Like, he doesn't want people being hurt or abused or whatever. That's not what they're advocating for. They're just advocating for, we keep talking about creating these safe places. Ugh. But I think where I've learned the most is in those environments where I have been, my thinking has been challenged the most.
Yeah,
and I don't want that to go away. I don't want that to go away, because I think we get better if we think more, if we critically think more. And you can't do that if you're in an echo chamber. You can't do that anymore.
I completely agree. No, there's a term for it. I can't remember off the hand what it is, but where you have, what happened was that when they were hiring people for positions in universities in social sciences, and the number of left-leaning people sort of increased slowly until it reached a tipping point. And once it hit that tipping point, they would basically, you tend to have a bias towards a political leaning similar to your own. Mm-hmm. And so they would tend to hire that kind of person, and that's why it's 5% now. It hit a tipping point, and it just went boom the other way.
Right.
There used to be diversity of opinion, but conservative opinions in social science is just about non-existent. Yeah.
Yeah,
and we're seeing craziness.
And if there's diversity, and I don't call this diversity, then what you'll have is you might have one college that might lean one way, and then another college and another institution another way.
I would think it would lean within.
Engaging. Yeah.
Like within a department, there should be a diversity of opinion, because you can go down the hall and have a discussion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I agree with that. And I think we need to have that, because I think, like I have two millennials, 24 and 30 years of age, and if they're not thinking critically, that bothers me as a mother. I want my kids to think about things, and I want them to be challenged, and I want their assumptions to be challenged, because then I think they're better citizens of the world.
Yeah, and that's what a safe space should be. It's about entertaining, even ideas which you vehemently disagree with. I mean, you can entertain those ideas without having to agree with them, and you can critically examine them. But nobody wants that anymore. People are like, "Oh no, I'm offended by that." Well, so what? Mm-hmm. Who cares?
Well, and I think we just buy the T-shirt and then that's it. We're invested and we're done, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing.
I don't know.
Anyway. Well, Cami, thanks for being on. Do you want to stick around for the rest of it? I mean, we're going to go through these really quickly, but
do you know what? Tonight. It's 10:30 here. I feel like I need to go.
Yeah,
night.
I know. We'll have you on again. We'll have you on again as a guest co-host, because we're gathering people.
You know what? I would love that. I would love to do that. So please, we will do
reach
that. Out. I would love to
very
do
soon,
that.
Actually. Yeah.
And you know what? I also love to connect with the homeland. This makes me feel
the Great White North.
Thank you for that. Yeah. Which apparently it's the Great White North today, and I won't tell you how green and lovely and
you sent me a photo, and I'm like, oh man, no. It's still, we don't even have leaves here. There's no leaves.
No.
You had green grass, and I'm just, oh, really?
Yeah. It's coming. It's coming a little bit.
Yeah, like last year. Yeah, it didn't come. Last summer was stolen from us. I'm still bitching about it.
All right.
Well, thank you for being on.
Thank you very much, guys. This was really great.
It's been great having you on.
Yeah, thank you for joining us. Yeah.
Hey, take care.
Yeah, you too.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Because I'm praising Burr.
All right. Well, I guess everybody's ready to roll for the next second part 2. We have a bunch of stories to look at, religion related, and definitely Great White North related. A judge has ruled in Saskatchewan that the government cannot fund non-Catholic students in Catholic schools. Now, as we know, Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Ontario have Catholic school systems which are publicly funded. And what's interesting is that, at least in Saskatchewan, they cannot use, like the per-seat funding. It's not just based on students anymore. It has to be Catholic students. So it's not like non-Catholics cannot attend. It's about if they attend, well, they don't get the funding for that seat being filled by non-Catholic students, and that might mean the dissolution of a number of, or the defunding of a number of schools. Now, this resulted, it's like a 12-year lawsuit that started with when the Good Spirit School Division, which sounds like a religious school division, but it's not, sued the they basically challenged the creation of a separate school system, i.e. a Catholic school system in Theodore, Saskatchewan, back in 2003. So it's actually more than, oh wow. So it goes back to 14 years. And so, in other words, they were closing a public school at the time. And so if parents wanted their kids to attend public school, they would have had to bus them to a neighboring town, and that's quite a bit of hardship. And so when a Catholic school was basically created from the ashes of that,
I think the people that put that Catholic to school together actually even is another interesting story too, isn't it?
I don't know much about it, but anyway, a lot of people who would have put their children in public school ended up putting their kids in Catholic school, and that was deemed to be unconstitutional and a violation of the rights of. Here's the Court of Queen's Bench Justice Donald Lay stated in his decision that the provincial government funding of non-minority faith students attending schools is a violation of the state's duty of religious neutrality. Now that's interesting because the religious neutrality is not something that is necessarily recognized under the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, I don't think, but it certainly has been recognized by the Supreme Court in the past. So we are seeing maybe the beginnings of the destruction of the Catholic school systems. I'm not sure. If that's early days.
Only school in the area and they don't get any funding, yeah, I can see that.
Right, because now you have to send your kid to a Catholic school system whether you're Catholic or not.
Yeah. But in bigger cities, they're going to have probably enough funding still. So this will only, I guess I'm wondering how it affects long term, and it also makes me wonder how a town doesn't have a public school that's non-Catholic.
Well, right, but that same thing happened here in Alberta in Morinville, right, and where they had 4 schools, in fact, in the town of Morinville, and they had no public schools. The Catholic school system was the public school system, and so don't say it can't happen, because it can.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, how does that happen that there's only Catholic schools and they're publicly funded, there's no other options. How does that happen in these 2 provinces?
Well, I think in the Morinville case, it was just an accident. It just happened. It was just nothing nefarious. But in the case of Theodore, Saskatchewan, they were closing down the public school. And they thought, let's create a Catholic school. Now how that makes sense, I don't know. Regardless, they did. And so there was definitely something going on there. I don't get it, but whatever.
And it's such a strange thing to say we're not going to fund non-Catholic kids in these schools when they have been all along. What changed exactly?
Well, what changed was the judge's outlook on this situation. But don't forget that the parents of children that go to Catholic schools, if they're not Catholic, they cannot vote in the election of school trustees, etc.
Yeah.
So they are already at a disadvantage in a big way. You have no say in it.
How is that not discrimination?
Yeah.
Of course it is. Of course it is. What's your point?
What did this judge invoke to pass this decision?
Yeah.
Well, this was a long. Yeah, it's like saying it's current year, so what the hell? Because that's true. I mean, what the hell? This is 2017. How are we still dealing with this kind of crap? Yeah.
Saskatchewan.
It's just the slowness of the people were complacent. people didn't care if their kids went to a public school or a Catholic school. That's all the same to them, right? Not so much anymore, I don't think. I think that,
I don't know about that. I don't think my parents would have sent me to a Catholic school for sure.
Yeah, well, they would have put you on the bus to the school in the other school district, and you would have been.
Well, I guess, yeah. Geographically, if I didn't live close to one, I grew up here, so it wasn't an issue. But yeah, I suppose if I came from some small town where it wasn't much of a choice.
Yeah.
But
exactly. Well, that's what the situation is. Of course, in an urban center, you're not going to have the problem. I mean, you're going to have the choice all the time, right?
Yeah.
But in a rural setting, you don't. You're stuck with what you get. It's the same with hospitals. We saw what happened with Humboldt, Saskatchewan, which was the public hospital in Humboldt, and it was also the Catholic hospital, and that ran into significant problems. It is fortunately now no longer a Catholic hospital. It is a public hospital, period.
So is this school going to switch to a public school then because funding?
Well, in the case of Warrenville, there was definitely a need for schools. So even the Alberta government was like, yeah, we kind of violated your rates there, so yeah, we'll fix it. And it's fixed, right? It's pretty much fixed. Yeah. This is not fixed. And what was happening was the public school was closing because there wasn't. What I don't understand is this. If the public school is closing because it is no longer viable, how can you create a Catholic school, which is a subset, right?
Yeah.
I don't understand.
Funding, the people that put it together were church-based groups, so I'm not surprised.
Right, unless you got a bunch of homeschoolers that all of a sudden, hey, we can have a real school. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what the issue. Yeah. So here's something else they wrote. A public school system exists to nurture kids in the understanding that they live and will live together. Yeah, unlike a Catholic school. I agree. Regardless of race, religion, economic circumstances, intellect, and many other differences, public school education can and does teach about religion and spirituality, and as well it should. It takes care, however, to recognize that faith is personal to each person and that it would be wrong for the institutions of the state to bring their weight to bear in promoting one faith over another. That seems to me to be the death knell of all Catholic school systems, if this becomes broad in terms of Canada-wide. Because how does the existence of any publicly funded Catholic school system not violate this?
Yeah.
I don't see it.
That's weird. It's weird though because it's still, in a way, it provokes that broader discussion, but it's still discriminating against non-Catholics on the basis of not being that religion, right? So
that's right. Yeah, and
it's
shipping your
bizarre.
kids to another town is an unnecessary hardship on the parents, or on the school division, in fact. So
yeah, because you have to pay for that bus.
Yeah, it costs money. Mind you, it might be less than funding a public school, but
a public school.
Yeah, it's a complicated issue, and that's probably why it took 12 years to work its way through the court system.
That's a crazy decision, though.
Yeah, it's kind of gone under the radar. The Saskatchewan Catholic School Boards Association said in a letter on its website, Catholic school divisions believe that we have the right to decide to admit non-Catholic students and to determine the extent to which their admission allows us to maintain a truly authentic-based Catholic school system. Our faith is a journey that includes inquiry of non-Catholics, conversion, right? And growth of existing members. This requires inclusion and a welcoming of spirit. But there's nothing in there that says you have to be paid for that seat to be filled. So, yep. You can admit them as many as you want.
Articles where Muslims, because there's no publicly funded Muslim schools, they would still rather send them to the publicly funded Christian, because it's still religion school, than the non-religious
Which
schools.
I don't understand at all, but yeah. I don't get that at all.
Complicated, but that's how they look at it.
Like any religion's better than none at all. Right?
Yeah. Which is kind of strange.
Now they won't get funded. Their kid won't get the funding to be at that school now.
There's another article. Catholic school funding decision could extend beyond Saskatchewan, says a professor, and He said, the funding of non-Catholic students is not a denominational right. That is a religious right of Catholic schools. It is the funding that is the issue. Yeah, exactly. What's your point, nerd? Don Livy.
Yeah.
It's kind of saying the obvious. So what does that mean? It means any rights of the separate schools, whether they be Protestant or Catholic, at that time, really in particular, the ordinances of 1901 would be frozen forever as being protected. That's part of the Constitution. Yeah. We'll see how this plays out, because it's an interesting decision, but I have no idea what the fallout's going to be.
Yeah. Because you would think maybe then, fine, we'll go non-Christian and get the money, or they'll just get the money elsewhere.
Well, they could try, but
people to convert.
Well, that's what I would have thought the Catholic school systems are doing. Yeah.
What's that?
That's what I thought the Catholic schools would be just fine with, right? Hey, we get these non-believers in, we can convert them. Yeah, whatever.
Yeah. Baptize, they're Catholic. There we go. We get our money now.
But Don Livy, this professor, I guess he's University of Saskatchewan? It doesn't say here. He's at University of Calgary here. He says that the schools could see a reduction between 15 and 30% in their student enrollment. And that would create a funding deficit for Catholic schools. Oh, no.
Whoops. Whoopsie.
Yeah. So I'm gonna follow this closely, because I don't know what's going to happen, whether there's going to be
it could go either way.
Well, they could appeal. The province could appeal the decision. Lots of things could happen between now and whether or not it actually applies to Alberta and Ontario. But this is a monkey wrench, right? I mean, a total monkey wrench in the Catholic school system.
What were the three holdouts of all the provinces?
Yes, exactly.
Saskatchewan, Alberta,
we'll see what
Ontario.
happens.
Yeah. Very interesting.
Oh, and speaking of Calgary, it's here. I'm gonna play this just really, really quick here. Where is it? Okay, play, stupid thing. How come it's not playing? This plays, right?
Yep.
Okay, that plays. So why isn't this other thing playing? Okay. Shoot. I'm just gonna. Okay, well, we'll have to play.
I'm Sarah.
Oh, there it is.
Yep.
What? Okay, now.
I'm Sarah, and I'm celebrating. What?
I'm Sarah, and I'm celebrating.
Oh, sorry about this. Jesus Christ. All right, let's try that again. Go, you silly thing. Oh, really? Soundboard's acting up. Come on. Oh, my word. Okay. Sometimes,
I'm Sarah, and I'm celebrating.
What was that?
I don't know. It says I'm celebrating, and I'm Sarah, and I'm celebrating. And then it cuts out.
Is it a
That's
commercial
very weird. That's
I'm Sarah, and I'm celebrating.
what the hell is this thing doing? Okay, this is really screwed up. Anyway, okay, here's the story.
Hi, Sarah.
I have no idea what the hell that
Sarah.
was. Okay, so Alberta Catholic High School under fire for pro-life presentation. Let's call it what it is. It's anti-choice
Red Deer
presentation comparing abortion to Holocaust. Okay, so a Red Deer Catholic High School brought in this. It's École Secondaire Notre Dame High School. Okay.
We just call it Notre Dame.
Yeah, Notre Dame. Well, yeah, I suppose you would. There's probably not too many Notre Dames in Red Deer.
Nope, just that one.
So they started with they brought in this group to teach them about sex ed. A pro-life group to teach about sex ed. Yeah. Why not just take a drill and, put it through your temple? So they started with a video entitled "The Case Against Abortion, Personhood," as if personhood matters. And so at about the 120-minute mark, the video references the Auschwitz death camp. I've been there, by the way. It's kind of bizarre. And Nazi leader Adolf Hitler's, quote, scheme by which severely disabled children could be murdered, unquote. as if that was equivalent to aborting a fetus, as if a fetus is a person. No.
They really drive home that the fetus is a
was.
person thing.
I don't care if it is a person. You can't. No one gets to use anybody else as an incubator without their permission.
And not only that, they don't abort fetuses. Most abortions happen before 16 weeks. Actually, most of them happen before 8 weekes.
Well, it's a blastocyst, right?
Yeah. And but so not only lying about when people have abortions.
They brought in Peter Sanger too, right? His view on postnatal abortion. The thought experiment.
Yeah, Peter Singer.
Yeah.
Singer. Yeah.
And it was Singer. Yeah, Singer.
Yeah.
And
so they paint a picture of murder,
right.
Big time.
False equivalence.
They equivalate. They make the false claim that people abort babies, which they don't, or even fetuses, which they don't. Most doctors won't perform abortions after 16 weeks because ethics, and most women have them before 8 weeks. And then they go on. They talk about the death penalty.
Yeah, they did.
And how you're treating your baby inside you as a criminal. You've sentenced this kid to a death. Like the death penalty.
The unborn child. I mean, they always call it an unborn child, not a fetus.
Yep. And they actually say it's just as human, so you're just killing these kids.
My skin cells are just as human.
And then they talk about, and after you have this baby, are you going to look at it? This mom's poor, and she really hates the fact that this rapist child she's had looks like the rapist and reminds her of the rapist. And now, is it okay for her to kill that baby?
Not after it's born, no.
They actually talk about that in the video, just like that. It's really disgusting. Wow.
Yeah, it's false equivalences and framing. Yeah, it's pretty bad.
It's one of the worst things I've actually seen. I mean, I've gone to the anti-abortion kiosks and stuff because they always have them at the women's shows and all this other ridiculous stuff here and at the health shows and how you're killing your baby. This is one of the worst bits I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And they showed it to children and they talked about it to children, and she stands there and tells children this. In the high school, I would be absolutely appalled as a parent.
Yeah.
But are these parents appalled? Are these parents talking about this? I haven't heard.
But you're not Catholic.
Grade 10 to 12. Well, it must have come out somehow, right?
Oh, yeah. One of the students leaked it. Yeah.
But there's no...
Yeah.
I'm in Red Deer.
I would have.
I'm in Red Deer. There's no outcry. There's absolutely nothing. Nobody's complaining about it in Red Deer. Not a single Red Deerian cares.
Red Deerian?
That I've seen. I mean, I didn't hear about it, Randy, until you brought it up.
Really?
It's not on Facebook. Nobody in Red Deer is talking about it on Facebook, how appalling this. It's just fine.
Wow.
There's not one single Catholic school parent complaining about it that I've seen, not even in this article.
Yeah, but the thing is, these are also publicly funded and administered school systems. This is part of the Catholic school systems. And this is one of the things why we got to get rid of Catholic school systems. And
well, this is why the parents are happy with the Catholic school system. They want to scare their kids shitless. They want their kid thinking that this little 8-week-old bunch of cells is murdering your baby like you've stuck to the death penalty. You're criminalizing this baby. You're it's just terrible. And I seriously have not heard that they're not coming back next year.
I'm laughing with you.
No, that was just, yes. That was a pretty good rant.
There's no outrage in Red Deer. Well, not one word.
Nothing
on Facebook.
Dave Egan, the Minister of Education, said, we do have excellent filters, and obviously we didn't catch something like this. Yeah, probably because it wasn't put by you or put past you.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah. It brings them in. The parents are fine with it. Nobody's complaining.
Yeah, that's the problem.
It is shocking. A student was probably like, this is whack, but I haven't heard a single parent say I don't want them back.
Right. And he also said it's completely outrageous, and I was offended. The Red Deer and area pro-life group presenting in schools, I have a big problem with that too. Well, no, duh.
Well, he does, sure, but are any parents actually complaining to him?
I wonder if they got paid for that presentation too.
Well, of course they do.
Oh, of course they did, yeah.
Well, I don't know because they spread propaganda as a part of their, mandate or whatever, right? So
yeah,
maybe
they could voluntarily come
guests
too.
Yeah,
I could find out, but
I'd be curious if they got paid, which would piss me off even more.
Yeah, here's what you're referring to before. There's a good quote in here, Twyla. Already by week 3, that baby's alive. Let's just say that a woman does get raped and she does get pregnant and she bravely and courageously decides to have that child. She's making the choice to have that child. Later on down the road, after she has a healthy baby boy, she can't stand to look at him because he reminds her of her rapist. He acts as a trigger. Would we say it's okay to kill her baby boy then? Well, no, because it's illegal. It's murder. At that point, you dumbass.
Not to cells anymore.
Personhood is not granted to a fetus.
No, like the person who's complaining about it is a founder and chair of AIM, accessing information, not myths. There's not a parent complaining.
Yeah, it's just a... And she says, so why are we saying that it is okay for her to kill that same baby boy? Okay, first of all, it's not a baby boy. When it's in her womb, it's a fetus. When he's just younger and more dependent. Just younger. He's a fetus. And more dependent inside her womb. Well, because he's using her body as an incubator. Without her permission. There you go. Done. I can grant personhood to a fetus. I don't care. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You don't get to use anybody else's body as an incubator without your permission. They're not. Sheesh.
Yeah. No, if you said that in that class, Randy, you'd get lynched by the parents and the students, most likely.
I'd bring it.
Life begins at conception, right? Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Life didn't begin. Life began 3.5 billion years ago in an unending chain. It's an irrelevant thing to say.
The Catholic perspective is that life begins at conception. Who was it in the U.S. that
that's why we don't fund them.
That bill or whatever to charge men when they masturbated?
Yeah.
Right? I can't remember.
Well, it's like the song, "Every sperm is sacred." You know the song?
Yeah.
Every sperm is sacred. Yeah.
Was that a Satanist group or was somebody serious?
No, it was a senator or a Congress.
No. That was a woman senator. Yeah, it was.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I can't remember what state.
Speaking for the people.
I want to say Louisiana, but I'm not sure about that.
I think the challenge in that particular video was the reference to Nazi Germany and the Holocaust. No, it wasn't. It was the whole problem is it was bullshit from alpha to omega.
It was.
It was terrible.
Oh my gosh, it was.
Yeah. Unbelievable.
The whole video was terrible. You can go to this website. It's on Global News. Look for Alberta Catholic High School under fire, blah, blah, blah. And the first video is the presenter, and then the second video is the actual video they showed the class, which was the whole the case against abortion. I think it was called. Was that what it was called? Yeah, the case against abortion.
Yeah,
personhood. And it's just awful. It's awful.
Well, it's very typical of the films they show here. I mean, when I was a kid, I'd go. They'd be like 25-cent popcorn, watch a movie, and it'd be all about how atheists are destroying the world and the end of the world, and you're going to chase down everybody who's left behind on Earth is going to get chased down by dogs and hunted by the hounds of hell. And you're like, oh.
Interesting times. Interesting times. I would love it. I would thrive.
It's Red Deer. Good job, Red Deer.
I will bring it. What can I do to bring it to fruition?
Bring what to fruition?
Oh, the end times. Totally, man. I'd be like, Mark of the Beast, baby. Yeah.
Well, you don't have any dogs. All you've got is cats. It's not really going to help.
Yeah, that's true. I would throw my cats at the dogs.
I've never heard the
cats left in the video. It was just women getting hunted down by dogs.
Well, in Egyptian mythology, the cats are the guardians of gates of hell, or to the underworld, not the gates. Yeah,
they're probably helping out there somewhere. They forgot to put them in the film.
You will not find a dog statue in, a jackal maybe, but not dogs. But you will find cats.
Yeah, that's true.
In Egypt.
Well, in the movie, they were German shepherds.
That's racist. That's gross and racist.
Yeah.
It's so scary.
That is totally racist.
Central Alberta.
What about the Pekingese?
This does not surprise me.
Jeez. Anyway, we're going to stick with the whole Catholic, what's not milieu, but the motif. There we go. Catholic motif. More Catholic register. Conscience rights protection amendments voted down. This is in Ontario. So Ontario is revising their legislation for medical assistance in dying. And there was a big push, including Tommy Collins, the only Catholic cardinal to ever be named after a drink. He was pushing to have, to allow for physicians who are against physician-assisted suicide to opt out of everything, including a referral to what they call effective referral, which is just another framing. So they don't even want to refer people for assistance in ending their lives. And the Liberal government, to their credit, said, well, screw you. And they are now physicians are obligated to refer. There's no hardship placed on a physician to refer somebody. It's not an effective referral. The referral doesn't kill anybody.
Interesting.
But
that
morality.
So what's that?
This is their argument. The state cannot demand physicians or other healthcare professionals to set aside the moral framework that guides their conduct, just as it cannot coerce believers to renounce their faith, said Assembly of Ontario Catholic President Bishop Ron Fabro.
Yeah, it's
the language of effective. Does that mean that they could just refer them to what's that clinic? It's clinic. I shouldn't say that. Oh damn! I just had the name. Pregnancy care centers. Would that be an effective referral?
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, which ones? The ones that actually say no, you shouldn't have an abortion.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Would that be regarded the language? It just piques my curiosity why they would say an effective referral.
Well, what it means is that it would end with the end result, right?
Yeah.
But that's the thing. It's like, well, I'm handing it off to somebody who would actually do the deed. I'm like, well, you're not actually. It's not up to you as a physician. I mean, the funny thing I find with all this talk about conscience rights of the physician is that there's absolutely no mention of the patient's rights ever. I've never seen a single article talking about a balance between the physician and the patient's rights. Not one.
And I would want a physician who wouldn't refer me. I really wouldn't want one. So what are they worried about? None of their patients are going to want them to refer them anyways. However, they want to be able to control everybody.
Well, they do want to control everybody, true, but I would disagree with you that Catholics would not want to avail themselves of medical assistance in dying because, I mean, lots of Catholics have gone to abortion clinics.
No, I didn't say all Catholics. I just said their patients. If you're going to have a doctor like that, he's probably vocal about his beliefs. You're probably going to go along with it. So that doctor's patients probably won't even want it. I could be wrong. Absolutely. But I certainly wouldn't have him as a doctor in the first place. But then I'm not Catholic either. Yeah,
and you're probably stronger than a lot of people. I mean, I would say if somebody came in and saying, if he said, he or she, came in and said, I can't help you with that, I'd be like, okay, you're not my physician anymore.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You're done.
Yeah.
Or
if they started spewing religion, at me, or making moral judgments as opposed to medical judgments.
If they do that, then you have an actual grievance that you can take to the CMA. I mean, that's verboten. You can't do that. But if they're going to say no, I cannot help you in accessing a legal route to what is the Supreme Court has said is a human right.
Yeah.
They're done as my physician. They're done.
Yeah. But these guys go a step further with their slippery slope thinking. He goes,
oh, of course they
do. This man named Urick believes the CPSO policy can't help but lead to moral and religious vetting at medical schools to ensure future doctors will go along with assisted suicide. Really? Really?
Yeah. Garbage. Yeah. Hasn't happened, never will.
Exactly. Yeah. You have doctors now that won't even prescribe birth control, and you're worried, and you're going to put that in there?
Yeah, I find that amazing, too. I think that I think that's a failing of the Canadian Medical Association to allow people, physicians, to, because of their conscience, and I'll put that in quotation, scare quotes, to, something that is so important, so commonly prescribed, which is birth control, and it's not always used in birth control.
I don't use it for birth control.
It's
I don't need it as birth
uses.
control.
Sure. Yeah, honestly, I have a problem with that. I don't care if they can go next door to the next physician. That doesn't matter to me. I don't care.
Yeah. Well, not in every
irrelevant.
place can you go next door to the next
and
physician
that's exactly,
either,
if you're in rural Alberta or rural Saskatchewan, you can't.
Yeah.
Then the CMA would actually say that, yes, they have to do that. But in a place like Calgary or Edmonton or whatever, they would say, okay, it's okay. Why? If it's not okay in a place where there's no easy option to go and actually get prescribed, why is it all of a sudden okay in a rural setting when it's easier? I don't understand the logic there. That it's either wrong or right.
Mm-hmm.
So here's this guy saying that people are going to be discriminated against to become doctors, yet
whatever.
It's not happening now.
And again, you don't see a single mention of patient rights. Not a single mention of patient rights.
Because I think there was one doctor that
so disrespectful.
Hit the media, or one person studying to be a doctor that did say they felt they were being discriminated against because they were pro-life or anti-right to die with dignity or something like that. I can't. Of course, this is a few months ago, but.
And on what basis were they discriminated against?
Well, on the persecution basis, Randy.
They're always
the victimhood. Oh my! Woe is me! I am a victim. Quit persecuting me, Christine. God damn it. Yeah. As if. There are lots of pro-life physicians out there. Give it a rest. Mm-hmm. Nobody cares unless you start yakking about it. I mean, your own personal beliefs don't matter when it comes to...
and excluding them from getting things they need.
Yes, exactly. If it interferes with your duties as a physician, then it becomes a problem. And I see this as a problem.
Yeah.
I think that actually making requests or making referrals should be something that physicians must do, because it's a proper balance between physicians' rights, conscience rights, and patients' rights.
And it is part of, I've worked in teaching clinics, it is part of processes. If you don't want to give your patient something, like say it's a drug seeker, or if you don't want to do something, you don't feel the patient needs it, you no longer want to perform. There's a lot of doctors that won't perform taking off the foreskin circumcision anymore. They'll refer.
Very few will do that now. Yeah. Well, it's almost non-existent now because the CMA does not recommend it. In most cases.
And then my poor kid got phimosis at 15 and had to get it anyways.
That's different.
And he's like, Mom, why didn't you get me done as a baby? And I'm like, but gosh, you're damned if you do, damned if you don't.
And on the same note with medical assistants in dying, where is it? Oh, it's not. I don't have it up here. Somebody that we wanted to get as a guest on our podcast a while back.
Adam Maier-Clayton.
Yeah, Adam Maier-Clayton. Sadly, he has committed suicide. And he's been suffering from what's this disorder that he has? I gotta look this up.
It's when he feels pain for no apparent physical reason.
Exactly. Yeah, there's no. Oh goodness, this is going to be a pain, isn't it?
Somatic symptom disorder. Maier-Clayton suffered from depression,
somatic
anxiety,
system disorder. Right. That's it.
Yeah, and a psychiatric condition called somatic symptom disorder, which left him in extreme pain with no apparent physical cause.
Yeah, and
there's no cure for what I have, you said.
I have a short clip. Hopefully it won't screw up like the last one did.
To me, it is entirely illogical to keep someone who is suffering every single day, horrifically, alive when they are pretty much begging for a peaceful way out.
Yeah, that's his voice. He was talking to CTV News about his struggles to get medical assistance in dying for the mentally ill. And one of the things I think that people come to mind is, suicide for the mentally ill is that they can't make rational choices, which is not true. We're not talking about people that are suffering extreme stress.
And
there are times, but
it's not just, he didn't have just depression. He didn't have just,
he didn't have it at all.
Pain, he had headaches, he had burning sensation, nausea.
Yeah.
He had physical symptoms.
Yeah, he said, I think in one thing that it felt like acid was being poured in his eyes. It was so painful, hey?
Yeah, as the longer he spoke to people, and this is why I didn't push to have him on the podcast, because I knew that would be a problem, and it's a shame. I would have liked to have gotten his voice on the podcast, and it's hard when you I didn't know him at all really, but I've interacted with him, and it's really hard even that much, right? He's such a young man. His father has vowed to carry on the fight to get this kind of, this kind of access to medical, to people like his son. It doesn't sit well with physicians and psychiatrists, and no duh, but if it's intractable, incurable, and it is insufferable, why is that any different than a terminal illness? I don't see it.
It was pretty much terminal for him. He couldn't function.
Yeah.
And if you can't help him, I don't understand how that works, of course, not being a doctor and such. So, but I don't even have that much pain. Like, I have pain from my allergies that I had it for a year straight.
Yeah, but you're not going to off yourself.
It was getting unbearable. I can't even imagine what he was going through. At least mine, I could go home and get away from the things causing my allergies and go home and get relief. I couldn't even imagine never having a relief. Yeah.
No, it's a shame because he was a very active young man.
I can't even.
And it all of a sudden came and hit him. And this is not the kind of mental illness which reduces your cognitive faculties. This is something that's intractable. And what amazes me about religious groups that speak about compassion, it's about ignoring the wishes of someone who is saying, "Look, I am suffering." That to me isn't compassion. Yeah. That's not compassion. That's making it about the other person, not about the patient.
And now look at how he had to die alone.
Yeah.
By his own hand. Because there was no way out for him.
Yep.
Other than suicide. I mean, that's terrible. He could have had it better. He could have had his family there. He still would have been in pain, but I can't even imagine what he had to do to end his own life then.
Yeah, he talked about it a lot. I know that
he had saved up some drugs or something to, take his. But it says here, police informed the family of his death Friday. Where
did he go? Was he alone? He must have been all by himself.
Yeah, it would be. It's kind of morbid to say this, but it would be interesting to, know how he did it.
Well, of course.
Yeah, I presume the drugs, but at least I hope, because that would be the.
But still, being alone, and it's like, it just. What he had to do in the end. Mm-hmm. I just can't even imagine.
So, rest in peace, I guess.
Tragic.
And I hope the government does better by him because, right now, the law as it stands right now is insufficient. It probably doesn't even meet the Supreme Court's decision, which struck down the original law preventing assistance in dying, and now they actually are going through the motions in terms of including people like Adam in accessing legally assistance in dying. We'll see, but we're not now looking at 2018 before that can happen, And it really bugs me that, there's people that are suffering right now. Time is a big factor here. The sooner the better. And they could have already had this legislation in place that was awesome if they'd have listened to the committee that the Trudeau government set up in the first place to give recommendations.
Trudeau or Harper? I think it was the Harper
Trudeau.
government.
No, it was Trudeau.
Oh, okay.
No. The Harper government would not touch this with a 10-foot pole before the election. They wouldn't touch this with a 10-foot pole. No, the committee was.
I thought there was an advisory or whatever, and then Harper postponed it. And it kind of fell in the hands of. Really?
Nope. This was set up by the Trudeau government. This was after they took power.
Huh. Okay.
The Trudeau government, the Harper government wanted nothing to do with the assisted dying issue.
It's for them. It's a political time bomb. I mean, they're conservatives.
Yeah, they wouldn't. Unfortunately, the legislation that was put in place, I would have expected from the Harper government, which is a definite pejorative. It was terrible. It was a terrible piece of legislation. Almost certainly
can't compromise here like the way they did, but they tried.
Yeah, well, they were saying baby steps, and I'm like, well, what's the point? What's the point of these baby steps? So they just draw out the legislation. I don't get it. Anyway, they're working on it. Maybe 2018 we'll have something. We'll see. Maybe something before, because there's still the Julie Lamb case before the BC Supreme Court, which hasn't been scheduled yet. She's somebody who has ALS and wants to have a kind of living will, saying at this point, I want my life to be ended. And that was one of the recommendations from the original House committee, and as like all of those recommendations were not put in the legislation. So we're going to have to wait and see about what happens with that case. I'm surprised it actually hasn't been heard yet, but it hasn't. It hasn't even been scheduled. So we'll see how that goes. I've been monitoring it. So unfortunately for, my condolences to the Maier-Clayton family. And I hope Trudeau and his justice minister, who has done a shitty job. She's just terrible. I can't, I voted for the Trudeau government, in the last election, but geez, I don't know if I can do it the next time. I really don't. Anyway, enough pontificating. We're moving from Catholicism and Christianity to Islam. Here we go.
Yeah.
Yay, Islam. And another murder on a Pakistani university. A student accused of blasphemy. He was beaten to death with planks.
Yeah.
Well,
I saw some of that video.
Yeah.
It's very
shocking. Right in the middle of like a sidewalk, like right in front of a door to the school, kind
with
of like
a bunch of students watching.
Situation. It's mind-boggling that in public people can just go up and murder somebody with their bare hands like that, throwing things at them, and oy.
So a group of about 10, very barbaric. A group of about 10 students shouted "Allahu Akbar!" Yeah, great. During the attack on this poor student, Mashal Khan, he was stripped naked and then beaten with planks until his skull caved in. And it was videoed. Are you serious? Yeah. What the hell is wrong with you people? Blasphemy is a highly sensitive topic in Muslim-majority Pakistan. Screw blasphemy. It is a non-existent crime. Your feelings don't mean squat. I just don't care.
It's like justified bullying that leads to death.
And they wanted to burn his body afterwards. I'm like, jeez. And nobody knows exactly what online posting had prompted the blasphemy accusation. It's like, yeah, wow. That's just sick. That's just sick. But at least they've made one arrest so far. They've
made a few more.
Have they since then?
Custody is at 34.
Oh, really? Because they had arrested one person, Abdul Wali Khan, University. I wonder for was an employee of the university. So
this one, the latest arrest of Occam employee identified as Bilal.
Oh, Baksh, you're right. Yeah,
has taken the tally of the total suspects to 34.
So they got 34 in custody. Good, but let's see if they actually face justice. Called for the murder of Mashal Khan and incited the mob, which was beginning to gather around Mashal to carry out a lynching. Well, it wasn't really a lynching, but its end result is the same. Wow. 3 primary suspects in the murder case continue to evade arrests. These suspects include more employees of the university, Malana, Ali, and Nawab, and PTI TESOL counselor, whatever that is, Arif.
What the heck is a TESOL counselor?
Yeah, I have no idea. Yeah, so more Pakistani and Bangladeshi attacks on secular people.
Just imagine living in a society where at any moment you could be murdered like that.
Yep.
And not even. I mean, you can just make the accusation without any evidence, or
then have a whole mob kill you.
Yeah.
It's McCarthyism times 10,
including employees of the university.
Yeah. So much for safe spaces, eh?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, there's no safe spaces at that university.
Yeah, not if you don't have the groupthink.
Wow.
That's really sad.
It was mind-boggling watching that. I don't recommend watching it. It just makes you really afraid to be in a group of people.
I would be afraid to be in that country. I'm not going to Pakistan anytime soon.
Yeah. And I just feel so sad for the people that live in those areas, that they're terrified.
Sure. Yeah. It's terrorism.
It's just heartbreaking. Yeah.
And
very disturbing.
And in a lighter story, Michigan doctor is accused of genital cutting of 2 girls.
Lighter? Why?
No, I'm just being...
It is later, but not...
I'm not trying to make light of this. I'm just... Yeah. It's these last stories have been kind of downers.
Mm-hmm.
So, Jumana Nagarwala, 44, was arrested on Wednesday on charges that she performed genital cutting at an unnamed medical clinic in Livonia, Michigan, transported minors with intent to engage in criminal sexual activity, and lied to federal agents. I'm not sure. I guess that's kind of an afterthought. So a couple of girls were taken by their mother from Minnesota to Michigan, and she performed it's not quite clear what it is she performed.
Yeah, they just say cutting. They don't actually say removing.
Yeah, exactly.
But they said here cleansing of extra skin.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
a euphemism.
Well, that's how I see it. You're not clean if you have the skin, so they remove it.
Are you dirty?
That's how they believe this.
Yeah.
Okay, Dr. Nagarwala is alleged to have performed horrifying acts of brutality on the most vulnerable victims. Kenneth A. Blanco, an acting assistant attorney general with the Justice Department's criminal division, said in a statement on Thursday. That's very strong language. It must have been very brutal.
Yeah, it must have been a little more than a little bit of cleansing of skin.
Cutting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, what they call cleansing of skin could be removal of the clitoris.
Yep.
Yeah.
And the labia, majora and minora. So, thing is, if they don't get it done here, they just take them back home and get it done there. So, it's just not really legal here.
Yeah, I was just going to say,
do what you can.
Unfortunately, there's obviously people that are willing to do it.
Sure.
Yeah.
So they probably think they're performing a service in a more clean environment, but whatever. It's not legal here.
Well, she claims that she's never performed genital cutting on any children. But we'll see.
But it was this time.
But she was not granted bail. Federal judge declared her to be a flight risk and a danger to the public. So she's still in custody. And we'll see. But that's not the only person to have been arrested. There was a second doctor in Michigan, and his wife were arrested in a genital mutilation case. They arrested Dr. Fakhruddin Attar, and he's accused of letting Dr. Jumana Nagarwala perform mutilations at his, now they're naming the clinic, Burhani Medical Clinic on Farmington Road. They even give the address. His wife, well, not quite the address, but yeah, you can probably find it. His wife, office manager Farida Attar, was also arrested and is accused of helping Nagarwala perform the mutilations, according to a 14-page complaint unsealed Friday in federal court. So these are the first cases in the U.S. for this kind, testing this kind of law.
Good.
And Attar and his wife were arraigned in federal court Friday afternoon and ordered jailed until the detention hearing this coming Wednesday. And both were. I love this.
People have been doing this and getting away with it. So
well, that's the thing. It may be illegal, but that doesn't mean people don't do it.
Yeah, exactly.
There was a video I saw. Where was it? Oh, here it is. Nagarwala's attorney says she was performing a religious procedure and did not violate the law. Huh.
Sure, you try to frame it like that. However, the law says you don't do this. So,
well, that could be how she gets off.
Maybe.
That could be. Yeah. I mean, if you're allowed to freaking faith heal your children, who knows how far that?
Yeah, it depends on the state, right? You can't do that in every state, but. Not every state has a religious exemption.
Yeah.
It says it's the defense attorney Shannon Smith argued the procedure is practiced by the Dawoodi Bohra, an Islamic sect based in India, and that this clinic was used to keep the procedures sterile. Well, la-di-da.
Yeah.
Let's see what comes of this.
Yep.
But some of the young women that came out of there couldn't walk out of the clinic.
No, they
unbelievable.
Yeah. No, and when they justify it because it is more sterile, and you see the videos coming out of like Africa or India. These girls, they get cut with rusty razors, and then they get grass shoved in there, and their legs get tied together. Half of them die of like infection after. Yep. It's barbaric. But their daughters are unclean if they don't do it. The men won't marry them.
That's right. And then they get ripped open when time comes for
when the child comes. Bed. Yeah.
Well, no, it's just sex.
That too. And then when the child comes, usually the first child dies. They say when it's the kind that where they lose all of their labia majora minor and get sewn up. They end up usually the first child dies.
And the girls came from Minnesota were told by their mothers, "Oh, we're just going for a special girls trip."
Oh.
Yay. Girls' night out, right?
Yep. Fun. You'll be clean. You'll be very clean.
I wonder how those girls managed to get the word out.
Well, they were apparently the clinic was under surveillance.
Okay. Okay.
So they were already onto them.
Okay.
FBI had received information that the procedure was being performed at the clinic, and so they were watching the clinic and saw these two girls from Minnesota arrive, and that was it. Boom. But the attorney says Attar will be vindicated. Allahu Akbar. Oh no, I added the Allahu Akbar. That's mine.
It's very difficult to get people not to look at their cultural practices in another way. So unfortunately, whether it gets done there and what they do say is more sterile, or they take them home and do it another way. Unfortunately, these girls are going to keep,
And if anybody has any tips in the U.S. on these things happening, female genital mutilation, they can call Call FBI. There you go.
Oh,
There's an actual hotline for this.
And if it happens here in Canada, or there's suspicion, call the
I
RCMP.
have no idea. Yeah, RCMP, obviously, but I have no idea what the number is. So,
Neither do I, but
yeah.
yeah.
Pretty appalling stuff, though.
Yeah.
Anyway. But that's all I got for the evening. Anybody want to talk about anything? That's a lot.
yeah, it was a lot.
It's a long one. Yeah. Yeah, we went 2.5 hours.
Yep.
Yeah.
Had a good talk with Cami Ryan, and we'll have her on again as a co-host and at some point.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds good. All right.
Thank you.
So I guess we'll shut her down and I guess come back in 2 weeks with something new.
That's good. Yeah.
So-
No more posts from Everyday Feminism. Please. Stop it.
I can't resist this. They post this funniest stuff.
I have to find some way to retaliate. Dick pics.
Yeah, dick pics. Dick pics. No thanks. No, it has to be something cognitive. I mean, Everyday Feminism.
No,
they're a gift that keeps on giving. It's just amazing. Mick, I can give you Mick videos if you want.
Mick videos? What's
Yeah,
Mick videos?
You'll find out.
Oh, no. It's not that one that worked with Anita Sarkeesian or what? Anita Sarkeesian?
Oh no,
him.
I don't know what if they did anything with her, but they're pretty funny.
Okay.
Yeah. Similar. Lots of cultural appropriation, that kind of thing. Yeah. You'll be at SJW by the time I'm done with you. You'll be wearing I don't know.
The hijab?
You'll be so steeped in white guilt. You'll never show your face again. Okay. All right. So we don't have any interviews lined up. Holy crap! I got to get some people on.
Oh wow.
So I guess 2 weeks I'll have to find a guest co-host, and we'll do that and do another potpourri episode. Unless something else comes up, and it might happen.
Like Cy Babe or something. I'm sure she'd come on.
You're free to ask her.
Yeah, I should. Well, I got my brain on again. What happened with my move is the kid's dad talked them out of going to BC, and then he didn't even see them for Easter, which is, if you're gonna talk them out of moving, why wouldn't you see them for the holiday? But whatever. And then before I could figure out what to do to change my plans, my house sold, which is good. It wasn't even on the market for a month.
That's really good.
Yeah, so then because I really was sick of being sick at work, and now we're allowed to close this one door to keep the scents out from another area where there's a lot of people wearing scents and stuff. And that happened last week, and I had the best week ever at work. So, and this really good deal on a really good place, a nicer place in a nicer neighborhood came up, so I jumped on that. It just all happened really quickly.
Where, in Red Deer?
Yeah, in Anders, which is a much nicer neighborhood, and came up in my price range, so I jumped on that, and which is good because my daughter's going through a lot of anxiety right now, and her school's dealing with it pretty good too.
Well,
so it just basically all my plans fell apart, and a whole bunch of others dropped in my lap. So I feel like I'm going to do 3 more years of time here in jail, Red Deer jail. And then my daughter will be done high school, and then I'm going to make my plans to escape again.
Yeah.
So her dad said he didn't care where we went after she was 18, so won't have that obstacle. And if things are working out as well as they are at work right now, I'll be happy. So
oh, good.
Just gotta shake my head. It was like this direction, that direction, this direction. Oh, mind you, I haven't bought the place yet. I get to find out if my funding, if I will get the financing for sure on Monday. But my brother said he'd co-sign for me if I had any problems, so it should be fine.
That's cool. Congratulations.
Yeah.
Thank you. It's a much nicer neighborhood. Much nicer. Yeah. Right now, I listen to the guys bomb around in their big, huge pickup trucks that are lift kitted and all day long here. It's just
that doesn't turn you on.
Smokes. Huh?
Seriously, that doesn't turn you on.
Ugh. And where I'm moving, they wouldn't be able to drive like that around there, but they'd crash into something. So like, it's like a condo facility type. They're townhouses, but you have to go like 10 kilometers an hour around there. It's almost like the lady I bought it from was 80 years old, so much quieter neighborhood. There's trees behind the place, and hopefully not as many people smoke. I can't open my window where I am right now. So, anyways, that's what's happened with me. I'm staying here in Crazy Red Deer for at least another 3 years. I got to get out of here more. I got to go to Calgary or something.
Yeah, definitely.
So, but well, yeah, on that note. How are you doing, Chris? Huh? But you're getting radiation now, Chris?
No, I had it back in December.
Okay. So that's just clear and
the effects tend to linger for a few months or whatever. It didn't really kick in until about 2 weeks after, and I just started sleeping more and like I wouldn't say huge brain fog, but I'm a little bit off.
Yeah. I get that a lot with my allergies. That brain fog, it's debilitating. Plus, I had the pain. I have the headache pain. So the whole front part of my face feels like it's punched in all the time. And this is how I work every day. And I finally went back to my boss again, and I wrote her this whole email, and I was like, this isn't my life. It sucks. So now we're allowed to close the door that we're not allowed to close. So, and we've had people come through going, what are you doing that for? I'm like, until those people stop using sense over there, this is staying closed. And I've had the best week of my life in the last year. So I don't know if it's anyway like that radiation brain fog, but oh my God.
No, like I've had the same bank account since I was like 13, right? And, I can just type that thing in when I need to log on with no problems. And like all of a sudden I forgot one digit, right? Once I was reminded, I was fine. But just like, wait a minute, I forget the number. Like, what the fuck?
I'll forget my damn name. Like, I can't remember anybody's name, even my own, when I get like that. It's so frustrating. I'm trying to work. It's like,
Another thing I did, which I've actually done before when Kara was little and yappy, like you're driving somewhere, and then you start like going on autopilot and driving somewhere else, right? Like, it's like when I moved.
I'll be walking to go to the bathroom, and I'll be like, "What am I doing?" Because I'm so stupid right now, I can't even think. It's like, ooh.
It's because Kara's yapping so much, but like when I moved away from Acadia, I'd find myself like, heading toward Acadia when I wasn't meaning to go that way and shit, right? It's like, yappy kid.
Distraction. Pain is just as distracting as a yappy kid.
I'm sure it's more so.
Yeah. So, I finally, I basically just wrote a really long email about what my life is like right now, how much it sucks being in this much pain. And so I got interrogated, basically, because I work for enforcement. So they sat me down. They practically interrogated me. It felt like, it's like, seriously, this is what's happening. So then the other areas of the boss, it's actually Alberta Transportation, where we're justice where we are. So they talked to the Alberta Transportation people, and they sent out an email saying, cut it out again, because they did it a year ago, but everybody just ignores it. And it's like, you guys, I will sell my house and leave. Like, basically that was what I was saying, is like, I've sold my house. Now the decision is we get things better here or I leave, because I can't work like this anymore. So, and I think I finally got through, but people don't believe you. They seriously don't believe you. They can't see what you're feeling, which I don't understand, because my face is all puffed up. So, like, behind that puffiness is a hell of a lot of pain. Like, seriously. So, she said next time speak up sooner, but it's just... So, I gotta stick up for myself more, too. But when you're in that much pain, you just try to push through and go home where it feels better. So, But after a year of that, I'm getting sick of it. And they had shut off the air to our area. We had no air movement. So they got that turned back on too, and that seems to be helping. I mean, if you're stuck in a stagnant area where the scents are... people just don't get how debilitating allergies can be.
Yeah.
So it's like you're sick and in pain and being punched in the face constantly. It's like trying to work around that. So, but she said next time speak up sooner, and I will, because if they didn't interrogate me the way they do, I probably would speak up sooner. But I guess I'll just at least the squeaky wheel gets the grease, I guess they say.
Yeah, fair enough. Eh?
Yeah, but it's hard too because you don't want to be the whiner.
Yeah.
But assertiveness. Well,
I'm glad they're trying to help you out.
Well, that, and I get, because I'm not permanent too. I don't know what my rights are either.
Okay. Yeah.
So it's just. But I guess I do have some rights. I don't want to tell them I'm stupid. I mean, I'm stupid when I'm at work. What does that do? So, but yeah, I had to say something finally because I had to make a decision there. I sold my house. I had to do something. I didn't have another job to go to. I didn't have enough time. I really would prefer to be going to... My daughter said airdrie would work, so I wanted to do that. But then... Oh, my house is sold. I got to do something now.
Yeah, wow.
But yeah, anyway, it's been a crazy year, and it's been a crazy few months, and I got to move in May now if I get that place. If I don't get that place, this place isn't sold either. It's kind of the whole conditional
thing. Okay. Yeah, okay. Yeah.
But I don't see a problem because I'm going to have 15% down.
That's good. Yeah. And a co-signer if you need it too, so that's cool.
If I have to, yeah.
Yeah.
If it doesn't happen, I'll try the cosigner. If that doesn't happen, I'm going to be stuck here and pissed right off. If I have to be in Red Deer, it might as well be in the good area. So, no. Anyway, yeah. Well,
Well, I suppose we should end the podcast, eh?
Well,
are we still on?
Yeah.
Are we still on?
That won't go on.
Yeah. Well, it's already out there.
Oh, hilarious.
I haven't shut it down.
Randy.
Well, you guys wouldn't let me finish it. It's like, okay.
Well, now people are going to be bored to tears listening to my whining.
All right, so anyway, 2 weeks. 2 weeks, we're back. I'm going to stop streaming now. And Monsanto. There we go. Monsanto, yes.
Oh, hilarious.
Right. Anyway, okay, so I'll see you 2 weeks. Good night.
Good night. Bye.